Chapter 46. Time passed very quickly. Unknowingly, 2 months had passed. There were only 9 months left before the open beta of the game. For William, as long as he did not actively participate in the affairs of the Iron Nation and the Black Lava Nation, no one would disturb him during this period. It was a good time to develop in peace. The life of the Mushroom Fairy was very good. Every day, many elves specially went to see this little fellow. She did not need William's special care. But because the cultivation of mushrooms was not suitable in the city, it could only be placed in the dark area at the edge of the forest. An elfin mage specially built a small elfin house for it there, and there were even elfin girls there to accompany it. Especially after obtaining the luxury food of mithril, the little fellow could eat every day until her stomach was round. The magic in her body exploded, and she wished that she could cast magic every day to make the mushrooms grow more and faster. In just 2 months, the scale of the blue mushroom had expanded to nearly 5 acres. It had officially become one of the restricted areas of the town of Dawn. Although the blue mushroom was only a beginner-level magic potion, it was just right for the current elfin warriors. It could speed up their progress to middle-level professionals. Odom organized people to expand the town every day, and the speed had greatly increased. It was more than enough to successfully expand into a town within half a year. Because a month ago, Curry had succeeded in inheriting the Earl's position. He did not forget his original oath and personally sent 6,000 slaves and 700 professional slaves. At the same time, William started an armor business with him again. One had to know that there were far more close combat professionals in the legendary continent than magic professionals. So, most of the national soldiers on the continent were close combat professionals. There were more than 30 high-level blacksmiths in the city of Dawn, and the other dwarf blacksmiths were at least middle-level blacksmiths. 4 high-ranking dwarf blacksmiths. They didn't need mithril at all. Just by using steel and a little iron essence, they could create blue-quality armor. This kind of ability was an unattainable godly skill for many mid-ranking blacksmiths, and a set of armor, including a helmet, breastplate, wrist guards, greaves, and shoes, could be sold for 30 gold coins. The consumption of iron ore was only more than 50 kilograms. If they sold iron ore, they would suffer a huge loss. In other words, William could not earn more. Most of the soldiers of the Black Lava Nation were still wearing black-quality equipment. In the situation where the Iron Nation was about to start a war, and even if the king of the Black Lava Nation was dying, it was necessary to purchase a large number of high-quality armor. As for the production of equipment, that was even more exaggerated. After all, Odom's goal in building the smithy was to increase the speed of equipment forging. The intermediate blacksmiths would forge the simpler parts, while the advanced blacksmiths would be responsible for determining the final product and quality. 600 sets, worth 18,000 gold coins. 70% of the income belonged to William. It couldn't be helped. Lords were just that powerful and capricious. As for the city of Dawn, with the influx of refugees from other dukedoms, it now had more than 18,000 residents and 800 soldiers. It was a bustling scene with houses, fountains, and magic lamps hanging on the streets. It was a stark contrast to the desolate scene in the past. Every day, William led his personal guards to clear the magical beasts around the city. He completed one mission after another and cleared out some threatening tribes. Blackleaf Forest had a lot of resources. Although there were few areas in the forest where crops were grown, the food that nature brought could often feed many creatures. Things like the gnolls and the minotaurs who never took off their masks could all appear. A month ago, he had single-handedly wiped out a small tribe of gnolls. The reason why William didn't capture them and make them miners was that these sinister and cunning fellows could ruin a pot of soup wherever they went. When the loyal and honest orc miners encountered them, they would sooner or later be fooled and even follow them to rebel. But the Tauren warriors who never take off their masks are the real coolies. William laughed. According to the scouts, this Tauren tribe is on the grassland north of the town. It's a valley area, and there are at least 1,000 Taurens there. After Knox finished reporting, he coughed lightly and continued. My lord, the Taurens are neutral, intelligent creatures. Although they aren't kind, They didn't harass us. There's no need for us to kill them, right? William snorted. When did I say that I wanted to kill them? When I saw your bright eyes, I felt that a certain tribe would be doomed. After all, every time you heard that we discovered a new orc tribe, you always had this look in your eyes. Knox replied carefully. It's obvious that your state of mind isn't good enough. Go back and read the book I wrote, Listen to the Lord, 30 times. William patted his shoulder. He didn't want to bother, but he still explained, Think about it. The Taurens have nothing to eat on the grassland. They can't even eat meat. I'm planning to let them move to the forest. At the same time, they can dig for ores for our town, carry wood, move sandbags, and so on. I can also give them some meat and improve their quality of life, right? Underscored agree. Knox was dumbfounded. He wanted to tell the Lord that the Taurens were vegetarians. They would never be hungry on the grassland, and their life was boundless. It was a pity that the Lord didn't listen. He just didn't listen. William asked again, How many idle soldiers are there recently? There are no more than 150 troops in the town. Now, there are as many as 1,800 orc slaves. Most of them are guarding the mines. Knox said bluntly, If there was no accident, the Lord was planning to recruit soldiers when he asked this question. So few? William raised his eyebrows, but he still nodded. Let's put aside the problem of the Tauren tribe for now. We'll start recruiting tomorrow. Among them, we need 300 shield bearers, 300 ranger, 300 swordsmen, and 100 knight professionals. The total number is 1,000. There's no age limit. Males can choose to join the army. Female professionals can choose to become guards of the town. Yes, my lord. Knox nodded and immediately ran out to make arrangements. For other NPCs, recruiting and selecting good seedlings was like a blind cat hitting a dead mouse. Usually, they would only choose professionals who had battle energy under the age of 18. But for William, with his insight, a person's bloodline potential could easily be seen. Age was not important at all. He might even be able to pick up something. And within 2 months, he had finally reached level 30. Although there was still a gap between him and the level 40 profession advancement, the current William's strength had skyrocketed a lot. All his skills had reached the upper limit of level 7. His battle energy and meditation magic had also reached the upper limit of level 15. Now, all his experience was reserved for his character. Within a month, he would definitely be able to change his occupation. Chapter 47. It was about the recruitment. The residents of the town of Dawn were extremely enthusiastic about it. After William came to the town, he fought everywhere. Ahem, bullied and robbed. Not only did he get a lot of resources, but he had never lost a soldier in battle. In particular, the treatment of the elfin guards was so good that it made people jealous. Even the 300 dwarf warriors who joined later also had very good protection. On the day that William announced the recruitment, more than 3,000 professionals signed up. They didn't even want to farm. Among them were the former residents of the town. After all, more than half of the residents of the border town were professionals. As for the 500 half-elves who had never left, they seemed to have made up their minds. There were more than 300 people who joined the army. There was almost no need to think. William let these half-elves be selected first because the combat power of the half-elves was much stronger than that of humans. They had become professionals early. The reason why they could come to the border town was because they had committed some crimes and were very strong. More importantly, although the bloodline of the half-elves was inferior to that of the elves, they had beginner-level bloodlines, middle-level, high-level bloodlines, and even some grandmaster bloodlines. But the bloodline potential of humans was much worse. Many people didn't even have beginner-level bloodlines, so they couldn't become professionals at all. But thinking about the number of humans on the legendary continent, it was clear that the base number changed the status. The qualifications of humans were the most ordinary, but with their large numbers, they still occupied the most vast, most prosperous, and most resourceful areas of the legendary continent. Actually, the elves, winged people, and half-elves are still considered good. Their numbers are small, and they belong to the good or neutral camp. They can choose some places with sufficient resources to live. And the places that dwarves, gnomes, and gnomes are willing to live in, generally, no one is willing to fight for them. But other neutral races, such as Tauren, gnolls, orcs, trolls, and so on, can only occupy those remote areas and eat grass. William sighed slightly. But this was also the situation in the current situation. The era of the gods did not have a history, so was not counted. The first era belonged to the great dragons. The second era belonged to the elves and dwarves. The third era belonged to the humans of today. And the fourth era was about to arrive. This disaster brought by the gods and demons did not only belong to the legendary continent, but also to the entire world. No matter what kind of god or devil they are, they're all existences, or rather, creatures. The strongest among them became titled gods and devils. In other words, there were two factions. Those who were doing well and had a good reputation were called gods. Those who were not doing well and had a bad reputation were called devils. For example, humans believed in the god of light, the lord of magic, the goddess of fortune, and so on. In the eyes of humans, they belonged to the light faction. For example, the demons in the dark world, the god of darkness, the lord of demons, the goddess of misfortune, and so on, which the demons believe in, are all demons. William stroked his handsome chin. He didn't know why, but he suddenly thought of these things. Come, let me help you test your bloodline. William looked at the long row of female professionals behind him. Women in this world were easily discriminated against. Many female professionals would be oppressed and treated differently. It was a pity that William had no interest in this. Who said that women were inferior to men? He wanted to build a team of beautiful women to guard the city. He was right. In the future, not all of the guards guarding the town would be women, but most of them would be female professionals. As for what he did, it was definitely not for his own benefit. He, William, was not a lecherous person. He wanted to use this special method to make a large number of male players stay. As for how to attract female players, it was enough to find some male half-elf NPCs. Anyway, they had long legs and handsome faces. Moreover, he was the most handsome person. They didn't believe it. When other players saw other nations with a group of muscular men standing guard, patrolling, guarding, and even glaring at them and threatening them without any emotion, they would definitely jump into William's arms. It had to be known. The name of the players who came to this world was the Chosen One. What was the Chosen One? They were the creatures chosen by heaven. The word heaven was comparable to the gods, or even greater than the gods to all the races in the feudal society. But the gods of this world were always paying attention to this continent. Even if they couldn't come to this world and couldn't really detect where the players came from, they would still treat the players differently. The gods would also send messages and tell them about their religion. From then on, they would conduct a certain level of investigation and surveillance. This situation wasn't just limited to the gods. In other words, all the local residents would have a strange feeling towards the players. But who am I? Your savior, the only person who loves you. I'm not interested in your resurrection, nor am I interested in where you came from. William wiped his lips. With his outstanding looks, even if he was drooling, he wouldn't look wretched. Even the girl in front of him who was grabbed by the shoulders blushed, but she still had a good impression of him. She thought that she was about to be taken away by the Lord and become the Lord's wife. But it was a pity. William glanced at her long legs and said without any reluctance, "Qualified. Next." The recruitment time was very fast. William personally chose the people. He patted each person's shoulder and used his insight. In short, he casually encouraged those who were eliminated to continue working hard, and those who were qualified to continue working hard. In the end, when his mouth was dry, he successfully selected 1,000 new soldiers and 200 female professionals to guard the city. Among them, there were 930 beginner-level professionals and 270 middle-level professionals. There are a lot of middle-level recruits. Lautner looked at the recruitment record and exclaimed in surprise. Fortunately, most of my 500 personal guards have advanced to middle level, and they have just advanced. But I have the best armor and the best weapons. As for these new soldiers, I'll give them a set of excellent blue, quality armor first, and then pull them out for training. William smiled. Little elf Timo had been working hard recently, and the production of magic potions was increasing. After being made into potions by mages, the elfin guards, who were not low-level, drank a lot. In addition, he often brought them around to patrol, plunder. As long as they continued to farm small tribes for a few months, they would basically all advance to middle level. The most important thing was that most of the elfin bloodline was middle level, high level, and even grandmaster and epic. It was impossible to see beginner-level bloodlines, and there were very few middle-level bloodlines. After all, there were only 30 million elves in the entire legendary continent. If the bloodline potential of the elves was not as good as other races, they really couldn't survive. Chapter 48. Lautner lamented that many of the recruits had the strength of middle-level professionals. But he did not realize that every soldier William chose had at least middle-level bloodline. What did this mean? In the eyes of the players, they were all elite mini-bosses. NPCs with beginner bloodline were the most common in the eyes of the players. They were just normal monsters. Middle-level bloodlines were elite mini-bosses, while high-level bloodlines were chief-level bosses. Middle-level bloodlines were impressive chief-level bosses. As for epics and legendaries, they were super bosses that could not be defeated even with a lot of human lives. William was looking forward to seeing the expressions of the players when they entered the game and saw that his soldiers were all elite mini-bosses. But the middle-level professionals in the town, other than the civilians who have not changed their occupation, have almost all been killed by me. But I can't wait too long. It's better to buy some slaves and slay professionals. William pondered for a while, then took out a magic scroll and wrote a line of words on it. Then he lightly tapped on the pattern of the small trumpet. The words on the scroll slowly disappeared. A few minutes later, another line of words appeared on the scroll. 5,000 slaves, 500 professional slaves, delivered in 7 days. It was signed Curry. Magic transmission scroll. Could send voice and text. Worth 100 gold coins. Limited to 300 times. For the players in the early stages of the game, this was an extremely expensive luxury. A few people bought it, but could not bear to chat with others. But there were also those who messaged the NPCs, and the consequences were self-evident. In the middle stages of the game, everyone basically had one. This thing became cheaper and cheaper as the version was released. And the way to use the magic transmission scroll was like adding friends. You needed to exchange magic marks on the scroll in advance. The most important thing is the space equipment. It's a pity that this thing is too difficult to get. William also had a headache. The players in the early stages of the game all carried a lot of bags full of useless materials. Going to the battlefield was like an Andy going to the market. It was simply indescribable. In the early stages of the game, every time the players participated in a large-scale main storyline mission, they would carry all kinds of bags. Once they died, they would drop a lot of things. The drop rate was much higher than the small monsters. Often, before the two sides fought, the players could not help themselves. After all, in the early stages of the game, there were no guild residences or personal residences. As long as there was no time to sell the extra materials and there was no place to hide them, they could only carry them on their own. At the very least, I'll need to find a great spatial magic caster in order to buy a spatial equipment. However, this type of character is far beyond the version limit. Neither the Iron Nation nor the Black Lava Nation has a space element archmage. It was not that William had forgotten about Moses, but he could not always ask him for things. Otherwise, Moses would realize sooner or later that he already knew his identity. At that time, the difficulty of befriending him would skyrocket. But after 700 points, there shouldn't be too much of a problem. Besides leveling up, killing monsters, and completing missions, William naturally had to increase the affinity of these key NPCs, especially Muse. In 2 months, he had gone to the fortune-telling hut no less than 60 times. It was necessary to deepen their relationship once a day, on the premise that he was handsome. As long as he licked their lips more, he would be able to increase their favorability. Although this endowment was not very useful for high-level NPCs with legendary bloodlines, in these 2 months, William had still increased their favorability to 250 points with him. This is like dating. We have to familiarize ourselves with each other every day, have a meal from time to time, look at the rainbow, and chat. Only then can we form a reliable, befriending relationship. William gradually began to like his endowment. According to the NPCs with legendary bloodlines, other people could not rely on words to increase their favorability. They needed to deepen their relationship and give them gifts. But where did the slaves in Curry's hands come from? It was very obvious that a portion of them were slaves from the Black Lava Nation, followed by slaves from countries that bordered the Black Lava Nation. Between human countries, besides large-scale wars of aggression, there were countless conflicts at the borders. Not only did they snatch resources, but more importantly, they captured the civilians of other countries and turned them into their own slaves. Otherwise, they would buy slaves from the bordering countries. After all, in countries with a large population, many civilians would become slaves for no reason, and the price was often much cheaper. This was something that could not be helped. The nobles were in charge. If a civilian walked on the road, it was very likely that he would suddenly be captured. Then, an aristocrat would arrogantly say, "You're a slave. Take him away and sell him." The nobles, they occupied the commanding heights of the human countries. The combination of outstanding bloodlines gave them an advantage in every generation. Money gave them an advantage. Equipment gave them an advantage. Even dochi cultivation methods and so on had a considerable advantage. The third era of the legendary continent had lasted for thousands of years. Ever since the human aristocrats stood at the top of the world, no civilians or slaves had successfully rebelled. The difference was too big. The destruction of some countries was often caused by another country, or it was the overthrow of the aristocrats. In short, in a situation where resources were not tilted, it was very difficult for the civilians and slaves to overthrow the current aristocratic policy. For example, many of the slaves that William bought were sold from countries further away. But the key reason for the War of the Kings in the first version, it was caused by an organization. That was the Freedom Alliance that caused a ripple in the legendary continent. Among them, the king of the Black Lava Nation was poisoned to death. He did not die of old age or illness. The reason why the Iron Nation dared to start the war was that someone had been pushing for it from behind. Even the king was being controlled. The princes of the Black Lava Nation killed each other and fought for power. It took a full 2 months before someone inherited the throne. There was also someone secretly stirring up a conspiracy. And that person was Gerdonaces. He was the biological son of the king of the Iron Nation. Since young, he had taken his mother's surname. As for his mother, she was a prostitute. After Gerda's mother was pregnant, she felt that something was wrong. Although she was only a prostitute for a full 4 to 5 years, only the Iron Nation king could touch her body. After Gerda's mother felt that something was wrong, she immediately went into hiding. Her premonition of the assassination really came. After everything calmed down, she ran to the opposite Black Lava Nation with her newborn son. The assassination did not stop, so she could only hide her name. But the most tragic thing was that any woman that the king had taken a fancy to must be extraordinary. Because of this, Gerda watched as his mother used her body to exchange for money and food from a very young age. She used this money to support his studies, learning words, and even food and clothing. Since young, Gerdonaces remembered that his mother would hide in the house and wash her face with tears every day. But no matter how wounded this woman was, she would never forget to face her son with a smile. Gerdonaces, the founder of the Freedom Alliance, the real big boss of version 1. So, buying slaves is not dangerous for the time being. It is even very reliable. These slaves can't go back home, so they can't survive if they run out. As long as I restore their civilian status, they will work hard. William knew that he was more like a slave owner, but he would remove the slave status. Civilian work could also be rewarded. The most important thing was, in the territory of the neutral camp, there were no nobles. The only nobles were the lords. And if the neutral camp wanted to maintain peace in the territory, other than concentrating resources and power, the lords must be strong. Even if the lord wasn't strong enough, his loyal subordinates had to be strong, so strong that no one dared to resist. So, The territory of the neutral camp is generally not big, but the strength must be terrifying. I can go the elite route. William knew that he had his own small goal of 5 years and a big plan of 10 years. As long as he could become stronger before the crisis, he would be able to stand firm here. Right, it's time to deal with the trolls at Rainbow Lake. William jogged all the way to find Lautner. Now he was already level 30. Although he was still 10 levels away from a middle-level professional, it could be said that there was a difference of 1 level. But with legendary bloodline, William's strength was already extraordinary. At least in the face of most middle-level, high-level, and grandmaster bloodline trolls, as long as their level was not too exaggerated, even if they had just surpassed level 40, he was sure that he could kill them. And what about the pretentious Lautner? Of course, it was used to resist the big boss. Don't take the ranger lightly. William believed that his uncle was very tanky. Right, not only can I find Lautner, but I also have to bring Knox and Norton. Even Eric and his son can be called. Anyway, they are very good hunters. There is no problem asking them to go hunting together. William raised his eyebrows. Knox and Norton both had Grandmaster bloodline, and they had also reached level 48. They had silver quality middle-level equipment, and their strength was not weak. As for Eric and his son, anyway, these two people were hiding in the city pretending to be hunters. Since the Lord invited them to go hunting, they could not refuse. Chapter 49. William brought Lautner, Knox, and Norton to find Eric and his son. The two of them lived a very simple life, wearing leather clothes cut from magical beasts. In the past, they relied purely on hunting for a living and usually did not like to communicate with others. When there was more prey, the two men would stay at home all day. No one knew if the two of them could have a baby or what. Anyway, they were especially homebodies. Both father and son were homebodies. The elder Eric had a pitch-black longbow with a horn in his hand. It looked very ordinary, but under the sunlight, it did not reflect any light. In the eyes of those who had seen the world, one look at this thing and they knew it was definitely not ordinary. It was a good treasure for assassins, and it was at least a gold-quality weapon. The young Alec had 2 short swords that were as black as ink. The longbow in his hand was of good quality, but it was only of silver quality, which meant that it was only his backup weapon. If you want to hunt, there's no need to bring the two of us along. Lord Lautner's strength is extraordinary, and it's enough to protect your life. Eric chose to reject William's request without hesitation. Alec stood quietly beside his father, his hands on his waist, his eyes looking around casually. He seemed indifferent, but in fact he was ready to draw his sword and attack at any time. He was even observing if there was anyone around to surround them, and if there was a chance to kill the people in their way and escape successfully. Assassin. The most important thing was not to kill the enemy. It was to escape. An assassin who would not die after killing someone was a real ace killer. A guy who would die after killing the enemy could not be called an assassin at all. He was just a death warrior. William had already expected their reaction. None of the assassins from the Dark Shadow organization were simple guys, but he still smiled kindly. I heard that your strength is not bad. I'm going up the mountain to deal with those trolls. Maybe you'll be a little interested? Strength is not bad? Who said that? Eric was cautious and puzzled. William shrugged. Everyone says so. After all, although there are many professionals in this town, it seems that there is no one else besides you who can hunt middle-level magical beasts. Hunt middle-level magical beasts? Isn't that normal? Eric closed his mouth before he finished speaking. The father and son had been silent ever since they arrived at the town. Every time they went hunting, they would choose to hunt larger wild beasts or magical beasts. The two of them did not care about basic necessities, they just needed some necessities. Therefore, even if it was a magical beast, apart from keeping some of its meat and fur, the two of them would sell the rest at a low price in exchange for some daily necessities. Then, he continued to stay at home. However, because they didn't have much interaction, they didn't know what other people thought of them and gradually forgot about the town's true situation. Initially, they had only come for William's father in search of a safe shelter. Although the two of them lived in a small town, it was more like living in the wilderness, living a life of seclusion. But we're still not interested, father. Alec interrupted his father's refusal. He smiled and said to William, "My lord, please wait a moment. We'll prepare and set off with you." William watched as the two of them returned to the house and closed the door. "Tisk." Norton smacked his lips with a strange look in his eyes. "Alec, you're already a mature man. Please tell me why." Eric did not understand. His life had just stabilized, and he had finally escaped the organization's pursuit. If he were to be high profile, wouldn't it be easy for him to be exposed? Alec looked straight into his father's eyes and said, "Father, we can't hide for the rest of our lives. Or rather, I don't want to be unknown for the rest of my life. You have grown up. You're a mature assassin." Eric sighed. His spirit suddenly seemed to disappear as he sat on the chair, dejectedly. Alex slowly squatted down and held his father's hand. He said slowly, "Father, I'm still young. It's just that I don't want to hide anymore. The dark shadows are very powerful, but they are an organization in the dark. It's not that easy to find us. I want to make my existence worthwhile. I don't want to wait meaninglessly, endure silently, and even grow old." But Alex shouted excitedly again, "Have you forgotten what they told us? I still remember what my mentor said. Assassins can only hide in the shadows forever. When the assassin is exposed to the light, it will be the time for the assassin to disappear. Remember, we have killed a lot of people. They are all assassinations, sneak attacks, poisoning, and so on. There are too many people who want to destroy the Dark Shadow Alliance. However, it is precisely because we have never had a fixed territory, a fixed training ground, and even everything is not fixed. We are always moving in the dark and never stopping. This is the reason why we can really survive." Alec recalled what his mentor had said and continued, "The Dark Shadows are very strong. They could be considered the top assassin organization in the legendary continent. However, they're not the top intelligence organization. They do not have such a large area of influence in the southeast corner. It is not that easy to find us. As long as we follow this ambitious elven lord, sooner or later, we will become strong. When that time comes, we, who have the power behind us, may be able to make the Dark Shadow Alliance eliminate their intention to kill us." "Yes, it's just two traitors." Eric nodded absent-mindedly. He did not want to reveal his identity, but he also wanted to see the light of day again. Yes, when the two of them regained their confidence and pushed open the door, the aura of the two of them instantly became completely different. Even Lautner became careful. It felt as if two shadows were standing in front of him. As long as he closed his eyes, they would completely disappear. "I hope that the Lord did not wait too long." Eric smiled. William smiled. "Nope. It's a good opportunity to see your hunting skills." "Haha. Please don't be too disappointed, my lord." Eric smiled, and everyone entered the forest at the same time. It was a troll cave. There were about a dozen trolls. If there were no accidents, they were all monsters with beginner, middle, advanced, and grandmaster bloodlines. Trolls were not magical beasts. They could speak and belonged to the intelligent creatures of the Dark Camp. But almost everything could be counted as their rations, except for their own kind. Even if it was the orcs and devils of the same camp, as long as they were alone, the trolls did not mind having a taste of them. Trolls were 5 to 6 meters tall. Their weight was 1,500 to 4,000 pounds. Their weapon was usually a giant mace. The 6 hunters who had arrived at the Rainbow Lake looked at the weapons in the hands of the trolls. Not only were they thick and long, but they were also full of barbs. Lautner could not help but swallow his saliva and murmured, "Who can withstand this?" At the same time, the other 5 people looked at him silently. Chapter 50. I really can't take it. Lautner looked conflicted. He was not a pure warrior, especially not a shield bearer. Of course, he could not block it. He was a demon hunting ranger, and the light-type battle energy that he cultivated could deal a lot of damage to dark creatures. But killing people required skills. If he was reckless, he would definitely die. Fortunately, Eric came to the rescue in time. He pointed to the group of guys hiding in the shadows below. In our sight, there are a total of 13 trolls. There are 5 middle-level trolls, and the rest are beginner-level trolls. Now that this group of guys is gathering together to scratch their feet and drink water, it's not a good time to attack. If you want to hunt, you'd better bear with it and see if there are other trolls. We can wait. Anyway, "We're not in a hurry." William glanced at the sky. They were facing dark creatures, trolls. But darkness was not only their ally, but also the partner of the elves and the killers. The Rainbow Lake was very large, about 60 square kilometers, 5 times larger than the current Dawn Town. In addition to trolls, there were some powerful magical beasts living here. They came along the eastern mountain range, and now they were hiding halfway up the eastern mountain, which was above the cave of the trolls. It seemed that they had the advantage, and they had not been discovered, so they could launch a sneak attack. But fighting with the coarse and thick skin of the trolls was definitely not as easy as they thought. If they did not kill with one blow, which was a successful assassination, they would be in a stalemate with them. If they were really surrounded, it would not be the assassin's creed, but the warrior's creed. The bloodline potential of William's group was very high. Not to mention the bloodline potential of the trolls. They were originally more tanky and had higher health. In terms of average health, they were at least 2,000 to 3,000 more than them. In particular, their mace was a heavy weapon with crushing damage attributes. If they failed to block it, not only would their health be smashed, but if they were unlucky enough to be hit in the head, it would be a fatal blow. It could not be helped. The more exaggerated the physique of the monster, the more health it had. The trolls had at least 2,000 to 3,000 more health than them, and this was due to the bloodline of William's group being too high. If the health of the trolls were compared to that of ordinary soldiers, it would not only be 2,000 to 3,000, but at least 6,000 to 7,000. Otherwise, how could the trolls become one of the attacking forces of the Dark faction? The 6 of them quietly crouched in the grass, quietly observing in the dark. It had to be said that these guys were very perverted. From time to time, they would be naked and would crazily use their hands on a female troll with bare breasts, and Mo had no choice. The strongest leader of the troll tribe was the owner of the female troll. The other male trolls could only look at her and could not occupy her. However, the leader would not care if they fantasized about her. Instead, he would look at her with satisfaction. This was because his subordinates could only look at his women from afar and could not play with them. Instead, it would show off his strength. However, the leader did not notice that one of his wives was winking at the male troll who was pouring backwards. It was obvious. The green on top of one's head often only needed the simplest way to cheat. Every time the troll leader went out to hunt, his wives wouldn't mind letting these excellent lads vent their desires. As for their sons, cough, cough, the sky gradually darkened. When night fell, the trolls still did not notice that there was silver on top of their heads. Concealment was very easy for the elves. They had the ability to blend into the forest and nature. However, if they were in the city, the ability of the elves would not be so obvious. They would only appear to be very agile, unless they were assassins, but for Eric and his son, concealment was like a natural ability. The two of them sat there. Unknowingly, it gave people a feeling that the two of them had disappeared into thin air. Or rather, whether it was in the forest or in the crowded city, they could hide at any time, and players wanted to achieve this ability. First, become an assassin. Second, in addition to finding a hidden profession in advance, it had to be awakened at level 40. If there was a dark attribute battle energy talent, then they must choose the dark attribute. Third, choose a dark mage as a secondary profession, not a dark wizard. In general, an assassin who did not know dark magic could only be regarded as a berserker. Among them, dark magic was not considered a hidden profession. It could only be considered a rare profession. One could definitely learn it by using connections. It depended on whether the player had the perseverance and money. But it was completely conceivable that a group of players would cleverly avoid the dark attribute in order to look cool. Hence, they chose the dazzling fire battle energy and the glaring thunder battle energy. This dazzling battle energy was as if they were afraid that others would not know that the players were here to kill. The descent of darkness. At the same time, William and the others also discovered some problems. There were a total of 15 trolls. 2 of the young trolls, whose father was unknown, had just returned to the cave to sleep and did not appear again, because it was nighttime for the trolls to hunt. It was also at this time that this group of perverts finally separated. Among them, the leader, who was wearing a green straw hat, personally selected 5 unwilling trolls and brought them out to hunt. The situation was, once the troll leader left, those fellows who were flirting with each other began to go into heat. One of the trolls, who was on the lookout, realized that the figure of the leader had disappeared. He could not stand it any longer and ran into the cave while howling, "Let's do it now." The troll leader has taken away his strongest subordinates. Only some beginner trolls are left to mate. Lautner narrowed his eyes and was about to immediately attack. But William laughed. "Wait, why don't we lure the troll leader back?" "Good idea. But even if you lure him back, how can you be sure that the trolls will really kill each other?" Lautner asked, a little puzzled. At this point, William, Eric, and Alec looked at him in surprise. It was as if they were saying that he could find a wife and try. Lautner gradually fell into deep thought. No one knew what he was thinking about. After all, elfin couples were lifelong. Even if one of them died, the other would not marry again. Lautner, Knox, and Norton, who were single dogs, could not imagine it for the time being. "This problem is simple. Leave it to me." Alec accepted the task. Ignoring the astonishment of the others, he silently jumped to the side of the cave entrance. Then, under the dumbfounded gaze of a group of people, he entered the cave. After a while, he quietly walked out again. No trolls had discovered him at all, but William saw that he had taken away something. It was the clothing of the female troll's lower body. It was covered with something sticky. One could imagine how strange it was, and Alec dashed in the direction that the troll leader had left. William silently glanced at Eric. "You're good at it, cough. Basic operation, basic operation. Everyone sit down, sit down." As a father, Eric could only appease everyone and sit back down in the bushes. And the effect seemed to be very obvious. Almost 5 minutes later, the sound of panting in the cave had not stopped. 2 young trolls could not stand the evil wind in the cave and ran to the lake to play with the mud. In the end, they saw that their father, whose eyes were bloodshot, had already dashed back. Under normal circumstances, there would be an adult troll on the lookout. However, they, who had more than N times of experience in cheating, already knew that the leader would go out for a long time every time he hunted. When he came back, all the smell would be buried by feces and urine, and all the mess would be covered by the mud. It was a pity. The leader came back early. "I'm going to kill you little bastards." That was right. The trolls could speak. Chapter 51. The troll leader was nearly 4 meters tall. He held a glowing purple mace in his hand. In terms of weapons alone, he was comparable to a human body. At the same time, he also had the bloodline of a grandmaster. Just then, a light hidden weapon flew out of nowhere and directly smashed into his face. Before he could find the guy who wanted to plot against him, the smell instantly made him furious. So he immediately ran back to the meeting place without looking back. The other trolls were confused and did not know what was going on. Leader, this is a misunderstanding. It's all a misunderstanding." "Yes, madam, and I were just exchanging combat postures. We definitely didn't do anything else." A troll held his shabby underwear and ran out in a panic. Trolls in the wild often only wore underwear. After all, this was the inheritance of life, the most precious thing. It needed some protection. You may not believe it, but this is definitely the first time for me and Madam. If you don't believe me, ask others. Another troll saw the leader blocking the door with a mace in his hand. He hurriedly swallowed his saliva and ran away. In the whole cave, there were 3 female trolls and 4 male trolls. In other words, the other trolls had basically cuckolded this leader. Almost everyone, including his 2 little biological sons, knew about it. Only he, the leader, was kept in the dark. The troll leader had a domineering name, Bloody Crusher. He did not directly attack. His angry eyes were bloodshot, but he still let his men leave the cave one by one. However, just when the other trolls were glad that they had escaped and were bound to wander, the last male troll who left the cave was caught by his iron hand. "Woo! Spare!" Bang! The troll leader held his neck with one hand, ignoring the troll's frightened eyes. He smashed his head with a hammer. Blood and brains splattered on his face, but it did not reduce his resentment. It only made him angrier. But the trolls were not so weak that they could not fight back. Seeing this scene, the other 3 trolls immediately picked up the weapons scattered on the ground and decided to fight to the end. Their eyes were full of passion. Perhaps the blood in their lower body was flowing backward, making them have this impulse that they should not have. But in any case, they had the intention to kill this leader and rob him of his wife. Gadana, you also want to betray me? Bloody Crusher threw away the corpse in his hand, looked at the 5 men who followed him back, and also surrounded him. Haha, what do you mean by betrayal? Didn't you get the right to mate by killing the previous leader? Didn't you mate with the leader's woman when you were young? Gadana was his most loyal subordinate. He was the brother who had rebelled against the previous leader with him. Bloody Crusher did not roar, and his anger gradually faded. He glanced at his wives who were sitting together, but did not panic. He walked towards the other trolls and sneered, "Come on, let me see if I, the Bloody Crusher, am getting old, or if you guys are getting stronger. Kill him and steal his woman. Charge!" It was rare to see a group of trolls besieging their leader. What was even more impressive was that their leader had extraordinary combat power. He brandished his huge mace, and the whistling sound pierced through the air, piercing the eardrums. The first troll who rushed up was hit in the chest by a hammer. His entire chest cavity collapsed, and he vomited blood. He fell to the ground, unable to fight back. Bloody Crusher was powerful, and the sense of oppression he brought was not something that a normal troll could resist. Even a troll with a high-level bloodline would be easily repelled or even swept away by a blow of the mace. After a while, 2 trolls were maimed by Bloody Crusher. His body was riddled with scars, but his skin that was almost petrified gave him a tyrannical defense. As long as there were no fatal injuries, these injuries would quickly recover. Things gradually developed into this result. Except for William, basically no one could have thought of this. But this situation also surprised him. The troll leader in front of him was still very young, very strong, and his bloodline was also the best. If the affair had not been discovered, these trolls would have endured for many years before choosing to make a move, basically. Except for the large troll clans, the scattered small troll tribes were all like this. As for the female trolls, no one would hurt them. Only when they were old and unable to bear children would they be killed with a knife. Then their leg bones would be taken out and made into a new mace for young trolls to use. Bloody Crusher was very strong, but under the attack of 2 high-level trolls and a group of minions, he was immediately covered in wounds. Even his head was hit so hard that blood flowed out and the wounds were exposed. But Bloody Crusher still had a unique skill. No one knew what he was hiding in his pants. He suddenly reached down and stuffed it into his mouth. Boom! An exaggerated momentum soared into the sky. Bloody Crusher's body swelled, and his muscles became more ferocious and full of strength. His whole body was surrounded by green flames, like a demon. Even his mace was dyed green. Voodoo and black witchcraft. William raised his eyebrows. Good eyesight. Lana was very curious. He did not know how William recognized this thing. There is voodoo in the inheritance of memory. This Bloody Crusher is something. If he adds fire poison, it will be even more powerful. William was very surprised. Logically speaking, this should have been inherited by the trolls of the large clans. I guess these guys are going to die. Eric saw Bloody Crusher smash the trolls into meat paste with unusual ease and knew that the end had come. The other trolls were not fools. For them, witchcraft was something that a real leader should have. When the voodoo appeared, they once again remembered the majesty and invincibility of their leader. Unfortunately, they could not stay any longer. So, the last 4 trolls turned around and ran. The Bloody Crusher only caught one of them. He exerted more force with his hands and tore off the troll's head. Then, he did not chase after them. He just watched the other traitors leave because his injuries were not light. However, William was an understanding half-elf. He waved his hand, and Lautner, Eric, and Alec followed the other 3 trolls 5 minutes later. At the moment when a domestic violence scene was playing out, William and the others gathered together again. He looked at the 3 guys who came back and asked, "Done?" Eric pondered for 2 seconds. There's a flaw in this question. What about the last troll? Alec was puzzled. William narrowed his eyes and sneered. Kill him or catch him? Catch him? Do you have a way to control him? Lautner was very curious. Trolls were not so easy to control. Even the devils of the Dark Camp could only use big leather whips and big leather tools to barely suppress them. They would often resist. Hee, have you heard of Saint Soul magic? William raised his eyebrows. Soul control level. Level 7 skill attribute. You can control an enemy who is in a weak state, below 17% of health. After control, the enemy's health will recover to 62%. Consumption, 50 points of magic. Casting speed, instant cooldown. None level 3 special effect. Increase the control rate of enemies with Grandmaster Bloodline by 3%. Restriction, can only control 2 people. Restriction, the higher the enemy's bloodline potential, the higher the probability of failure. Every time the enemy's level is higher than yours, the probability of failure will increase. Restriction, if you successfully enslave an enemy, you have to use soul control once a day to increase the imprint. Otherwise, the probability of betrayal will increase. If you enslave an enemy for a long time, it can form a permanent imprint. Level 3 special effect is my greatest assurance. William did not mind using soul control a few more times. Although his luck was low, wouldn't it be fine if he used it 100 times? It was a waste not to control a level 65 troll with Grandmaster Bloodline and Voodoo Inheritance. Chapter 52. At this moment, Bloody Crusher knelt on one knee. The muscular tyrant had become a mantis shrimp. He was dying. His head was lowered, and he could only howl in pain. The 3 female trolls and the 2 little fellows were blocked in a cave and did not dare to come out. Because the enemy was too strong. No, it was too abnormal. William was sweating profusely. After he recovered his magic points, he reached out and grabbed Bloody Crusher's neck, continuing to use soul control. Kill me, just kill me. One could imagine that Bloody Crusher's soul was trembling. The translucent soul was faintly discernible in William's hand, as if it was about to be pulled out of his body. This feeling of being controlled by the soul was worse than death for any living creature. However, Bloody Crusher twitched for a while. William silently put down his hand. The 186th time, I failed again. Lautner and Eric controlled the troll leader. When he had some strength, they stabbed him in the back and kept him in a near-death state. However, the 186th stab, even Eric, who was once an old killer, could not bear to use his knife now, because the once powerful troll leader had greatly reduced his strength after using the voodoo poison. Then, under the sneak attack of the crowd, he was severely injured. But with his strong recovery ability, his health recovered too quickly. He had to bleed to reduce the amount of health he recovered. Now, Bloody Crusher's back was already full of wounds, and his flesh was a bloody mess. Next time, just stab in one place. Don't hurt this big guy. William coughed lightly. Stabbing in one place won't hurt. My lord, grandpa, ancestor, let me go. I'll do whatever you want me to do. Don't come. Bloody Crusher was a strong man and a tough troll, but he was already crying. He did not know what the elf in front of him wanted to do. But every time William held his neck, there was an indescribable pain in his soul. Every time his soul was stabbed, someone would stab him in the back. There was no way to reason with him. William's mouth twitched. Looking at Bloody Crusher, who was crying until he had no tears, he was also in a difficult position. His luck points were not high enough. His level was not high enough. Only his bloodline could suppress him. However, it was still a little difficult to control a troll that was 35 levels higher than him. A mere 3% increase in the control of the Grandmaster bloodline was as good as nothing. Don't worry, I'm experimenting. If I don't succeed after 300 tries, I'll kill you. Don't worry, I, William, am a man of my word. If I say I'll kill your family, I'll kill your family. William patted him on the shoulder and comforted him. Bloody Crusher was speechless. He hesitated a little and said, "Just tell me what you want. I'll cooperate with you, okay? Control your soul." Bloody Crusher pondered for 2 seconds. "Just kill me. I can't control my soul." "No, I said 300 times, so it's going to be 300 times." William was very stubborn. Anyway, there was no one here to disturb him. Although he had already controlled it from night until dawn, he still had not succeeded. But at most, he would persist until the sky turned dark. 237th time. Number 299. The 300th time, I beg you to kill me. Don't torture me anymore. No, let's try again. I think there's a little chance. William refused. 366th time. 388th time. 399th time. 400th time. Hey, I actually succeeded? William was suddenly stunned. He looked at his magical right hand and then glanced at Bloody Crusher, who had a dull look in his eyes and was silent. He had never imagined that he would be able to successfully control this terrifying monster with his unimaginable effort and willpower. Heaven does not disappoint those who are willing. Sure enough, no matter how powerful the boss is, no matter how high-level the monster is, they all have to surrender to me. William laughed in his heart. The others couldn't help but widen their eyes. After enduring for a whole day, even they couldn't bear to stab him. The Lord had finally succeeded. They really felt sorry for the troll leader. There was a river of blood under his feet. Not to mention, the troll's body speed was really good, and his health was really fast. Hey, say something. Give me some feeling. According to logic, after success, a lot of injuries can be healed instantly. William was a little puzzled and looked at the guy lying at his feet. The recovery of health had obviously worked, but why didn't this guy have any reaction? He didn't know if Bloody Crusher, who was lying on the ground, heard anything. He quickly stood up. When he looked at William, there was an indescribable sense of fear in his eyes. He instantly knelt on the ground and kissed William's shoes. His mouth trembled as he said, Master, from today onwards, I am your most loyal servant. Ding dong. Because you have caused a great psychological trauma to Bloody Crusher, the brand of soul control has been completely imprinted in the depths of his soul. He will always be controlled by you, occupying 1/2 of the soul control position. Reward, 35,000 experience. Oh, this is equivalent to me killing him. William was a little surprised and patted the shoulder of this soul servant. Get up and tell your wife and children that I am your master from now on. Yes, master. The powerful Bloody Crusher did not have the slightest resistance. His heart was full of fear for William, and there was nothing left. Even if William asked him to die, he would not hesitate and happily commit suicide immediately. Some people might ask, why did he want to die so badly? Bloody Crusher would definitely retort, that knife, if you don't die after being stabbed 400 times in the back, you can try it. Besides, there's also the cruel and inhumane soul torture. No one could imagine what he had experienced. He could only feel from the depths of his soul that his master was the most terrifying demon in the world, the most evil pervert. But no matter what his master wanted, he did not dare to resist. Bloody Crusher returned to the cave. His 3 wives' eyes were full of fear, and they hurriedly hugged him. The 2 little trolls also trembled as they walked over. The family of 6 hugged each other and burst into tears at the same time, as if they had suffered great grievances. William glanced at the group of onlookers and said bluntly, Don't look. What's there to look at? There's still many magical beasts by the lake. Try to get rid of them as much as you can. If you really can't deal with them, wait for the troll's injury to recover completely. Then let him take the damage, and we will attack from behind. That's a good idea. He's quite pitiful. Lautner could not bear to nod. He had just been tortured, and he was about to become a coolie again. The most tragic life could not be more than this. By the way, Knox and Norton, you 2 go and skin all the dead trolls, pull out their bones, and pack them up to take away. William curled his lips. Who are these things for? Knox looked disgusted, but he still obediently went to skin the trolls with Norton. There was no other way. The current lord was too terrifying. William sighed. If the elves don't use them, the half-elves do. If the half-elves don't use them, aren't there still the dwarves? If the dwarves don't use them, then give them to the humans. Anyway, the humans are not so picky. Chapter 53. As a troll, Bloody Crusher's life was full of joy. Even though he had been cuckolded, he had killed those guys and chased them away. He was a strong person who lived at Rainbow Lake. He had the voodoo inheritance. No matter what enemy he faced, he had the courage to fight. Moreover, there were no strong magical beasts near Rainbow Lake, so he did not need to be afraid. So he was the overlord of Rainbow Lake. However, endless fear came at the same time on the day he was cuckolded. A few hateful elves and humans beat him inhumanely until he was on the verge of death then. In other words, the most terrifying elf had appeared. Oh, no. It should be the master who appeared. Bloody Crusher pondered in the cave. He wanted to engrave the inheritance memory in his soul. This kind of thing had to be passed down so that his future son would deeply understand how terrifying the master was. The skin of the troll has been pulled off, but the bones are not very useful. Humans will not use these things as weapons. Knox walked over with his hands full of blood. And Norton threw all the hard, stone-like skin on the ground. So much? Then let the troll carry it. William looked at the large pile of troll skin on the ground. It seemed to be 500 kilograms. He did not know how many good things could be made from it. Whether it was the fur of magical beasts or some monsters, they were all good materials for making armor, inner armor, and even leather armor. The surface of normal armor was as hard as iron. But the inner layer of the armor must have fur as a layer to prevent the warrior from being scratched by the armor. Not all blacksmiths had the craftsmanship of a grandmaster. However, for the inner layer of armor, only animal fur was needed. There was no need for the fur of magical beasts that were too precious. Next was the inner armor and leather armor. The material used to make the inner armor was not only full of defense, but also very light and thin, like underwear. The skin of the troll obviously could not be made into inner armor, but it was indeed a good material for making leather armor. Even a complete troll skin could also be stuck on the shield to increase the defense. In short, the troll was good, the troll skin was good, and the troll skin was very useful. My lord, where should we send these trolls? Knox did not understand. It was definitely not a good idea to let the trolls live in the city. Of course, it's the mithril mine. Let them mine? No, let them watch the orcs mining. I'm afraid that they will collapse the mine. A powerful troll and 3 female trolls are more deterrent than soldiers. We can save a lot of manpower. William curled his lips. Bloody Crusher was a good thing, but it was a pity that he couldn't do much. Apart from being useful for fighting, his intelligence was only suitable for being a mine leader. Lautner suddenly asked, "Will there be any accidents?" Everyone already knew that he had learned half-baked soul magic, but they were also afraid that something unexpected would happen. No, William couldn't be bothered to explain the problem of the soul brand caused by the psychological trauma. Where are we going now? Continue to deal with the other magical beasts. William shouted towards the depths of the mine. Bone Crusher, keep the skins and follow me to deal with the other magical beasts. Yes, master. Bloody Crusher hurriedly called for his 3 wives and collected all the skins of his kind. Then he picked up his mace and prepared to die a heroic death. Rainbow Lake. This was the biggest drinking place for magical beasts and wild beasts. In those few days, it ushered in their doomsday. Among them, 26 magical beasts died tragically on the spot. 103 innocent wild beasts howled in the middle of the night. Many unknown creatures were smashed into a bloody mess. Was it the loss of morality? Or, ahem, William used 3 days to solve the safety problem of Rainbow Lake. Although it was only a temporary solution, in just a few days, all the magical beasts here died without a burial place. Other than the smell of blood, not even a hair was left. This kind of terrifying atmosphere was enough to make many animals not dare to come to drink for a short period of time. As for those corpses, of course, they were all dragged away by the troops and brought back as food. William didn't immediately build a dock here. He still had to kill a few more waves of magical beasts and wild beasts that came to drink. When there was no more to kill, it meant that this place was 80% safe. At that time, he would open up a mountain path and send a few troops to be stationed here. Then he could start fishing. There was no other way. If he wanted to expand his territory, he had to start a war and kill. Especially for magical beasts, it was difficult for most races to coexist with them. Back to the territory. Timo, Timo, the mushroom fairy, was very cute as she circled around William. Every day, in addition to sucking mithril, she was using her innate magic. It seemed very tiring, but it was very fulfilling. Anyway, that was how William felt. In particular, some elf girls liked this little fellow very much and often took turns to accompany little Timo. Stop spinning. My head is dizzy. Every time William looked at little Timo, this little fellow would fly around him, which meant that they were close. Timo, did you bring me a gift this time? The mushroom fairy flew in front of him and looked at him with a smile. William also laughed. Of course I did. Guess what it is? Candy? No, Timo doesn't like candy. Is it a big piece of mithril? Little Timo made an exaggerated gesture and then shook his head. He was suddenly stunned and said in surprise, "Is it a gem or gold essence?" William pondered for 2 seconds and did not intend to let him continue guessing, so he slowly took off the hat on his head. A sleepy elf slowly sat up. The two elves looked at each other. Uda! In an instant, the elves with small arms and legs fought fiercely. The corner of William's mouth twitched, and he quickly used 4 fingers to separate the 2 angry little fellows. The new elf he brought back was found near the Rainbow Lake. It was also a potion elf. On the little elf's head, there was a bright red strawberry. That was right. This was a strawberry elf. Unlike ordinary strawberries, special strawberries that had given birth to elves all had magic components and were also considered potions. Why are you fighting? William looked at them seriously. Timo snorted coldly and turned his head proudly. His small eyes glanced at William from time to time, as if to say that he actually had other elves outside. The strawberry elf was also named by William. She was called Lulu. Lulu also pouted, as if she did not expect that there would be other elves in his family. However, William also knew that the elves were not so vengeful. As long as they were more familiar with each other, the 2 elves could play together happily. Chapter 54. Time flew by. It had been 5 months since William had transmigrated to the game world, leaving him less and less time. Rainbow Lake was like a huge, delicious cake, attracting wave after wave of magical beasts and wild beasts. And he was like a hard-working herdsman, happily harvesting batch after batch of wool. It had been 2 weeks since he had last killed a magical beast, and he had not seen a new one. It had to be said that this was a sad story, because the army's fixed daily supply of magical beast meat was going to be gone. William sat in a rocking chair, holding a piece of meat in his hand and throwing it to the 3 little bears from time to time, like playing with dogs. The 3 little bears, who were 1 meter tall when they stood up, jumped up one after another to fight for the food. He asked casually, "Is there still no magical beast in Rainbow Lake?" Knox nodded. "Not at all. Magical beasts also have some intelligence. They will also be afraid and dare not appear near Rainbow Lake again. Well, send 100 human recruits to be stationed at Rainbow Lake, and, at the same time, send people to build the dock and mountain roads." William stood up and walked to the balcony covered with vines. He looked at the town that had expanded 10 times. Now it should be considered a small city. He suddenly sighed. The construction of the city is about to end, and many people have lost their jobs. Farming and fishing are the serious things. When the time comes, as long as this matter is announced, there will naturally be civilians fishing. My lord is wise. Knox laughed. William waved his hand, and Knox ran out to issue the order. Roar! Big Bear suddenly roared at him and was about to rush up with large strides. Stop! William hurriedly stopped him. Big Bear braked suddenly and stopped at William's feet. He raised his head with a puzzled expression in his eyes. It seemed that why didn't William play with him? William's mouth twitched. In more than 4 months, Big Bear, Bear 2, and Bear 3 had been fed with sufficient nutrition. Their body length was nearly 1 meter, and their weight was more than 50 kilograms. Such a fat and greasy lump of meat was no longer the little bear of the past. How could he be interested in holding it? Although giant wild bears were magical beasts and needed at least 8 or 9 years to reach adulthood, magical beasts like humans and elves could also develop and advance as long as they ate food with magic every day. You have nothing better to do, right? Come, follow me to the road. William brought the 3 cubs out. The giant wild bear was an earth element magical beast and was born with earth element magic. Their levels were 15, 14, and 13 respectively. They were all magical beasts that had just entered the beginner level. His strength was average, but it was still not a problem for him to abuse humans of the same level. Earth-type magic was perfect for solidifying a road. The three little fellows followed behind William. After passing through the crowded streets, they arrived outside the city. According to Master William's instructions, the three bears worked hard to cast magic on the road, where the trees had just been cut down. The three little bears slapped the ground with their claws, and a large area in front of them was covered by earth magic. After a few breaths, the soil became much more solid and flat. He was right. This was what it meant to really crush the road. Yes. It's protruding here. Use magic here. Hey, third bear, why are you roaring? I told you to use earth magic, not bear roar. Look, the flowers, grass, and trees have all been destroyed by you. It's affecting the beauty. Bear 2, come back. William's mouth twitched. He hurriedly ran over and pulled Bear 2's ears, dragging him back. This fellow was the most mischievous. He always wanted to go into the forest. Look at your big brother. How outstanding and obedient. I'll give you more food today, William said. Big Bear cocked his ears and giggled for a while. He slapped the ground with his big claws. His magic was the same as Bye-Bye's. He covered the ground and worked hard. Normally, the mountain roads in the forest did not need to be too troublesome. Even if they really needed to make the roads more solid, they only needed to cover the roads with sand and stones. But every time it rained, the carriages would leave deep marks on the mountain roads. These three little bears ate and slept all day and ate after sleeping. They were full of energy, so William found a job for them. The road leading to the mithril mine had been reinforced by them. The road was 9 meters wide, so it was not a problem for 2 carriages. Now they were reinforcing the mountain road leading to the iron mine. As for the roads inside the city of Dawn, they naturally did not need the 3 little bears to reinforce them. After all, the rocks of the iron mine were very suitable to be used as stone slabs. Besides mining, those hard-working orcs who did not want wages would also make many large stones. Some craftsmen would process the stones on the spot near the mine and use the carriages to bring the stones back. So the roads in the city of Dawn would be covered with stone slabs. Not only were the roads more solid, but the B points were also steadily increasing. 3 hours later, William stretched his waist and brought the exhausted 3 little bears back to the town. Today, they had advanced another 500 meters. The Lord smiled proudly. Full of achievements, he glanced at the completed city wall. It was 7 meters tall and 3 meters wide. The entire surface of the city wall was as black as ink. Whether one looked at it from afar or up close, they would think that the entire city wall of the City of Dawn was made of steel. However, the inside of the city wall was made of stone, but there were 2 layers of iron oil on the inside and outside. Anyway, it looked very scary and could scare off many enemies who came to attack. In fact, the real defense ability of the city wall was only slightly higher than a pure stone wall. When will the city gate be completed? William came to the south gate and took a look. My lord, it will be completed in 8 days. No, it will be completed in 5 days. When a human craftsman saw that the Lord had come to inspect, he immediately decided that even if he had to work overtime, he would finish it in 5 days. Very good, as long as it can be completed in 8 days. William patted the person's shoulder and gave him some encouragement. Lord William did not need to say too much. As the lord of the city, as a handsome and extraordinary half-elf, as the lord, he was the most distinguished existence in the entire city of Dawn. There was no one else. He was the master of the bloody crusher troll. He was the master of the giant wild bear. He was the prince that 500 pure-blooded elves would forever be loyal to. With so much glory attached to him, how could the commoners not admire him? It was as if he had a halo. Wherever he walked, the commoners could not help but stop in their tracks to admire his majestic figure. Just one sentence from him to the commoners could make many people so excited that they could not sleep. In this world full of class systems, even if the commoners had come to the neutral camp, they had not changed their habit of facing the higher-ups. Of course, William would not tell them what equality was. He would only continue to strengthen his authority, so that his glory would cover the entire city of Dawn and even wider territories. In fact, even if this city was built by everyone, the moment the entire city was completed, everyone would praise the greatness of the Lord. They would even forget that they had also contributed to it, because they would think this was all a gift from the Lord. If the Lord had not bought them here, how could they have such a good job? If the Lord had not been kind, how could they have their own houses? Furthermore, the Lord had also given them wages. He did not use cheap black bread to fool them. And most importantly, almost all of them were commoners who had become slaves. This was a gift from the Lord, and it was also the reason why they worked overtime. Simple money, some words, and some gifts were enough for William to buy the hearts of many people. To these commoners who had suffered all kinds of hardships, William only needed to give them a little charity, and many of them would remember this kindness for a lifetime. They would silently pray for him in their hearts. The Lord's system is really good. Chapter 55. Ding! You have reached the upper limit of level 39. Triggered the level 40 change mission. Change mission. Mission difficulty, B+. Mission introduction. Kill 3 or more middle-level creatures by yourself. The bloodline level must be at least Grandmaster. The more you kill, the more battle energy attributes you can choose from. Mission reward. 3 battle energy attributes. Choose one only. Excess mission reward? I'm finally going to change my occupation? As expected, a mission with 2 combat occupations is much harder than before. William swung his blood-stained sword and sheathed the blade of daybreak. It was a mess in front of him. The ground was littered with the corpses of the gnolls, broken weapons, and broken armor. Some soldiers were cleaning up the spoils of war. He had just finished the last mission, which was to eliminate the threat to his territory. The experience he received allowed him to rise to level 39 in an instant. But the mysterious reward of the mission is very interesting. It seems to be useful. William held a scroll in his hand. Witch's Curse, 1 time, quality, dark gold level, middle level type, item effect description. Crush this item and cast a curse on the enemy. A terrifying looking witch will appear on the enemy's back and use her maggot-covered tongue to lick the enemy's face, causing the enemy to fear, tremble, scream, and other negative buffs. At the same time, it will cause the enemy's attributes to drop by 20% to 30%. His health will drop by 20% to 30%. His magic and battle energy will drop by 20% to 30%. Restriction. It is ineffective against professionals with more than 250 intelligence points. Duration. Half an hour. Casting time. 1 second. Lick his face. TSK. TSK. William was just thinking about it when he suddenly inhaled a breath of cold air. What if someone likes a horrifying witch, or even that perverted one? Won't the effect be very weak? It is ineffective against those with more than 250 intelligence points. That means the stronger the hidden mental strength, the weaker this kind of curse is. It seems that the curse is not very useful against middle-level mages. With a full set of middle-level top-notch equipment and a meditation secret manual, it is definitely more than 250 intelligence points. It is a pity that this thing can only be used once. William had not thought of who to use it on, but as long as it was a normal person, after this curse was used, it was guaranteed that they would be stimulated all over and feel extremely good. Killing more than 3 intermediate professions with Grandmaster Bloodline means that they're the leaders of small tribes or some professions. William thought for a while and scratched his head in distress. Now, he had settled all the small tribes that were slightly threatening near his territory. He had even completed the quest. How could he have the chance to find a wild middle-stage Grandmaster professional? Unless... William suddenly thought of something. A human warrior came up to him and reported respectfully, "My lord, there seems to be a copper mine nearby. These gnolls have obtained a lot of copper, or..." Oh, this is an unexpected gain. During this period of time, William did not intentionally look for ore veins. The reason why he was determined to build the town of Dawn was that there were many rare and precious ore veins in the mountain range south of the town. The copper vein they discovered this time was nothing at all. However, with the copper vein, it also meant that he had the foundation to make copper coins. And copper, or could not only be used to make copper coins, but it was also a part of the precise structure of the navigation industry. Not only was it resistant to oxidation, but it would also not be easily corroded by seawater. One had to know that the salt in the seawater would corrode too many materials. The navigation industry in the world of gods was not too developed. Except for specially built magic ships, the lifespan of ordinary ships was very short. And this was one of the important reasons that hindered the maritime exchanges of many continents. In other words, many exquisite structures needed copper to complete. For example, opening the city gate required a set of complicated processes, and copper was indispensable. Other items could also be substituted, but copper was more flexible, especially after enchantment. It was often better than other materials and more convenient to obtain, so the value of copper ore was not small. Find a copper mine, and then send a group of orcs to mine it. Yes, my lord. The human warrior ran away. As he conveyed the lord's orders, the others dispersed to find the copper vein. Now, the matter of finding the mine no longer needed William to do it himself. He only needed to move his mouth, and his men would break their legs. And now, the number of orc slaves under him was more than 3,000. Just the mithril mine and iron mine did not need so many orcs anymore. Even these orc slaves could work in 2 shifts to mine. It had to be said that ever since the number of orcs increased and their working hours decreased, this group of orc slaves actually had a sense of satisfaction. And now, William had strictly prohibited anyone from attacking the orc tribe. As long as the scouts found a small orc tribe, even if the number was small and they could easily flatten it, they could not attack it. Because if they attacked the orc tribe alone, with the orcs' reckless nature, they would basically fight until they had the same number of enemies. When they realized that they still could not win, they would choose to surrender. Then, as long as they found traces of the orc tribe, William would definitely bring a large group of people and surround the orc tribe. After killing the orc leader, when the other orcs saw that there were so many enemies, they would basically kneel down and surrender obediently. It could not be helped. Since the day they were still insects, the orcs' operation had been perfected and had reached the pinnacle. Now, in the City of Dawn, the number of civilians had reached more than 33,000. There were a total of 3,000 soldiers. Among them, there were 500 elfin guards, and not one had died in battle. There were 300 dwarves. There were 300 half-elves. The other 1,900 were all human professionals. According to the scale of the army in the legendary continent, 3,000 people could form a legion. This was just the number of a legion. Just like the Iron Nation had at least 26 legions, the Black Lava Nation had at least 20 legions. But if one looked at the quality, 3,000 professionals with middle-level bloodline and above could not scare the ordinary NPCs, but the players would definitely be dumbfounded if they saw it. My lord. William raised his eyebrows. Seeing Knox rushing over, he asked in confusion, "What's the matter?" I've contacted them. Who did you contact? The Temple of Light. Oh yes, the messenger from the Palace of Darkness has also come. They almost fought in the city and were fighting with each other. Fortunately, Executive Lautner stopped them. Knox panted as he finished speaking. The corners of William's mouth twitched. He had asked Curry to help contact the two, but he did not expect the messenger from the Temple of Light and the Palace of Darkness to come at the same time. This was so King awkward. One belonged to the Light Camp. The other belonged to the Dark Camp. No, not really. The Palace of Darkness only believed in darkness, but it was not considered a pure dark camp. But they had fought for too many years. When the hatred between the two was added together, it could break through the sky. Cough, I'll go back now. Let them calm down first. My lord. Norton hurriedly ran over again. William stretched out his hand to stop him from speaking. Then he calmly asked, "Have they started fighting? Did they damage the buildings?" No. Norton shook his head. With Lautner around, the two messengers did not dare to be too presumptuous. Oh, then why are you here? The messenger from the Mercenary Guild is here too. Knox, follow me back. Norton, wait here. Let's see how big the copper mine is. William touched his chin. He had already started to suspect that the three of them had discussed it before coming here at the same time. Chapter 56. When William and Knox arrived at the meeting hall, they found Chong Wei beating him up. No, it should be the darkness emissary. He was brutally beating up the temple emissary, and the emissary from the mercenary guild was trying to stop him. Stop fighting, stop fighting. Someone will die if you continue. The mercenary emissary was a muscular man, a proper warrior. He tightly held onto the arm of the Temple of Light Messenger. No matter how the Temple of Light Messenger struggled, the mercenary emissary's steel-like arms held him in place, making it impossible for him to move. What was more hateful was that the mercenary emissary was still shouting for them to stop fighting as if nothing had happened. On the other hand, the emissary of the Darkness Shrine attacked from both sides. Apart from not using any do chi, the punches hit the flesh without the slightest bit of mercy. In just a short while, the emissary of the Temple of Light had a bloody nose and swollen face. No one knew how long this cruel abuse would last. When they saw William and the others enter, they finally stopped. The muscular man from the Mercenary Guild suddenly loosened his grip. He ignored the unlucky fellow who fell to the ground with a thud. He walked to the side as if nothing had happened and admired the murals in the meeting room. As for the Darkness Emissary, he sat calmly at the side. He squinted his eyes and drank his fruit wine. His excited face seemed to be reminiscing. Where's Lautner? The corners of William's mouth twitched. What's wrong? My lord, did you call me? Lautner had just gone to the toilet. Who knew that so many things could happen? Should we find a water magician to help treat him? Knox asked in an extremely soft voice. In the end, the observant temple emissary stretched out his hand and shook it. He slowly stood up. Pooey. He spat on the floor with his blood-stained saliva. William raised his eyebrows. However, the temple emissary did not notice William's gaze. Instead, he stared fiercely at the two fellows and said bluntly, "There's no need for treatment. It's just a superficial wound. I can still fight for a day." You fought. Didn't you get beaten up all the time? The corners of everyone's mouths twitched. Lautner coughed softly. All right then. Since everyone is fine, I'll give you a grand introduction. He leaned forward slightly and said, This is the Lord of the City of Dawn, William Blackleaf. Greetings, Lord. Greetings, Lord. Greetings, my lord. No matter how powerful the backing of the three envoys was, they still had to bow and show their respect when facing the dictator of a territory. William was the king of this city. Unless they had the ability to flatten an entire city, they shouldn't be too arrogant. The forces behind them were very powerful, but they couldn't hold up against the fact that the emperor was far away. Regarding this point, every single emissary had to remember it. Moreover, they had also noticed that their chances of winning against Lautner were only 50-50, so how could they dare to be too presumptuous? Coupled with William's surname, they couldn't help but be shocked and choose to treat it seriously. Greetings, envoys. Please take a seat. The conference hall of the City of Dawn was newly built. It was huge and bright. He sat on the highest seat and smiled at the three of them. The City of Dawn belongs to the neutral camp. We don't lean towards the light or the dark side. My territory has always been neutral. Unless someone invades or threatens the territory itself, I will only choose war. Everyone can understand this. Of course, I'm Akama, the southeastern region envoy of the Palace of Darkness. This is the first time I've come to the City of Dawn. I'm very impressed by the diversity of races in the city. I also yearn for such a life. May I know what Lord William thinks of the Palace of Darkness? Akama was a middle-level dark warrior. William smiled but didn't speak. Lord William, do you intend to build 3 temples at the same time? Anyway, I personally believe that the Mercenary Guild will definitely be of great help to your territory. It's the same for the Temple of Light. Lord William, you should understand that among the many intelligent races, there are more people who lean towards the light than those who lean towards the dark side. The temple envoy, who could fight for a day, also didn't want to fall behind. When the 3 of them had just received the invitation, they didn't have any impulsive or favorable impression of this former border town, which was now the City of Dawn. But after some investigation, they discovered that this rapidly developing city had great potential. It should be able to develop many believers and earn a lot of benefits. The Temple of Light and the Temple of Darkness each believed in a god, the God of Light and the God of Darkness. The purpose of their existence was to help the gods collect the faith of the intelligent races. The Mercenary Guild was much simpler. Its purpose was to recruit mercenaries. If someone posted a mission in the Mercenary Guild, they could collect a certain fee and post a mission to the Mercenary Guild. Mercenary groups and mercenaries could accept the mission and earn a portion of the reward. In short, the Mercenary Guild was more like an organization of middlemen. But since they could stand firm in the legendary continent, their strength was naturally not a problem. This was because true warriors generally believed in the god of war. But mercenaries wouldn't be loyal to the Mercenary Guild, because mercenaries often formed their own mercenary groups. Which of the three was stronger? In this poor and remote place, how can we tell who is strong and who is weak? Nowadays, the gods can't perform miracles, and their faith doesn't receive any feedback. Even the titles of many gods are made up. Many believers just want peace of mind. The Temple of Light and the Temple of Darkness seem to be high-end occupations, but they might not necessarily be loyal to the gods they believe in. William pondered for a while. But it is precisely because of this that I allowed you to stay in the City of Dawn. If not, wouldn't you take all the benefits? So he clearly stated, regardless of whether it is the Temple of Light, the Palace of Darkness, or the Mercenary Guild, I will choose to establish them. Whether you want to recruit believers or mercenaries, I will not care. But please remember, I will not be lacking any of the benefits that I deserve. If you choose to be stingy, then I will do the same. My lord, please rest assured. I understand. The Temple of Light messenger smiled, and the other two messengers also nodded. One had to know. The legendary continent was very big, and communication was very inconvenient. It was even more difficult to provide support. Just like the Temple of Light, other than their headquarters believers who would be loyal to the temple for life, the other temples built in empires, kingdoms, big and small dukedoms, as well as their believers and professionals, were mostly not pure fanatics. Their lives were very free. They could choose to inherit the position of a priest or a paladin. After receiving some training, they could choose to stay in the temple or leave the temple to enjoy life and fight on the battlefield. As long as they did not violate too many rules and were not specially reported, they would not be removed from the temple. It was even more so for the Palace of Darkness. It can't be helped. It's all for the sake of performance. The messengers of the Temple of Light and the Palace of Darkness complained in their hearts. They really did not have any faith in their own gods. It was just that their profession was stronger and they could earn more money. Even the messengers of the Temple of Light and the Palace of Darkness knew each other. The two of them could often meet and even drink together. The reason why they had fought just now was to show William. It was to let this young lord think that they were not on good terms. Because superiors always like the opposition between their subordinates. But the Temple of Light messenger had never expected that his old gay friend would have a new gay friend, and that he would even want to kill him. My heart hurts. The Temple of Light messenger's face was filled with disappointment and unwillingness. William smiled amiably. Since you have no problems, you can choose to start tomorrow. When the three messengers were beaming with joy, William said again, I forgot to say, let your people bring enough money. You can use my commoners. The daily salary is 5 copper coins, and the construction speed is very fast. The three of them were speechless. William raised his eyebrows. I remember that you don't have to spend your own money to build the temple. It's all from the headquarters, right? Are you trying to bully me because I just came out of the Dark Knight City? The three messengers looked at each other and hurriedly shook their heads again to say that they did not dare to. But actually, they really wanted to make a fortune and run away. Anyway, they were region messengers and not city messengers. They did not need to face William every day in the future, and from many cities, no matter which force entered, it would bring many benefits. So many lords or nobles would personally pay for the construction of temples and other buildings. How could they have thought that William would be so stingy? But you're still too young. The three of them had the same thought. An elf from the Dark Knight City with the surname Blackleaf. If he was not a royal family, then what was he? Chapter 57. William left. Lautner was in charge of the rest of the matters. As a respected lord, he could not let these trivial matters occupy his precious time. Hence, on the same day, the lord of the city of Dawn was wearing a black cloak. He stood at the bottom of the cliff and looked at the boundless grassland. A gentle breeze blew past, and the tall flowers and grass swayed in the wind. It was a feeling of broadening his mind. William rode on a black horse. Facing the blood-red sunset, he gently squeezed the horse's abdomen and galloped all the way north. The feeling of galloping was very satisfying. This was the feeling of his home grassland. He did not have to drive a sports car while waiting for a red light. The Iron Nation and the Black Lava Nation were in the north of the grassland. The city of Dawn was about 300 miles away from the border of the two nations. There were many races living on this grassland that was thousands of miles from east to west. There were Taurens, gnolls, goblins, dwarfs, and even small mermen living near the swamps and rivers. Actually, according to logic, whether it was before the gods' continent was divided or now, there were many races. Among all the races in the world, the small mermen were the most numerous. This group of small mermen wielding small tridents were cold and fearless. They were the purest, chaotic race. They would kill anyone they saw. If there were few people, they would attack. If there were many, they would run. They did not have the slightest reluctance. They were also known as the novice killers. When the game was in open beta, many players who liked to adventure in the wild at night were slaughtered by groups of small mermen. They appeared in rivers, swamps, lakes, oceans, and all other places with water sources. Unless those water sources were occupied by stronger creatures, they were usually the small mermen's territory. The sky gradually darkened. William rode on his war horse and galloped on the grassland. When he passed by a river, he heard a sharp, piercing sound. Subsequently, countless screams rose and fell, one after the other, one after another. Many piercing screams gathered together, forming a kind of ultrasonic wave that made people dizzy. In a short period of time, the sound had spread throughout the grassland, making people feel fear. William's warhorse was a little nervous. It had already sensed the danger, so it galloped faster and faster. But pairs of blood-red eyes appeared in the reeds on both sides of the simple road. He looked ahead. He could not see the end. Half of the world was filled with red eyes. They were densely packed and endless. The riverside in the wild at night was the little man-fish's world. Stop! William pulled the reins and decisively got off the horse. He did not continue forward. Then he patted the horse's butt, and the war horse turned around and galloped away. William chuckled. Slow down. They're not chasing you. Little brats, do you want to kill me? William took off his hood and looked around coldly. Many inferior man-fish were slightly taken aback when they saw his face and ears, as if they didn't expect the food in front of them to be an elf. But no one responded to William. Although the little man-fish were intelligent creatures, their language was very complicated and difficult to learn. Only a small number of little man-fish had learned the common language of the continent. A shriek rang out. In an instant, the densely packed mermen surrounded William like a flood with tridents in their hands. Screams, running sounds, colliding sounds, and countless other noises entered William's head. Everything in front of him disappeared, and it was completely covered by endless small fishmen. Just as the inferior man-fish were about to surround him, the unmoved William snapped his fingers. Pung! A pale blue shock wave swept out in all directions, and hundreds of inferior man-fish that were charging forward were all sent flying. If anyone saw this scene, they would discover that the souls of the inferior man-fish were also sent flying out of their bodies. Other than a small number of inferior man-fish's souls that returned to their bodies, the rest had all turned into ashes. Soul magic. It was impossible to guard against. It was very terrifying. It was far from what ordinary elemental magic could compare to, especially to this group of inferior man-fish. This was the birth of a godly skill. TSK, a inferior man-fish that was almost 1 meter long, opened its mouth full of sharp teeth and looked fiercely at the fellow in front of it. Battle energy shone on its body, and it burst forth. William narrowed his eyes. Middle level. So, he rushed over at an even faster speed. The inferior manfish only felt a phantom appear in front of it, and then its vision turned black. Its head was already held by William's hand, and a huge force drove its entire body to the ground. Pum! Its skull exploded, and brain matter splattered all over the ground. Its thin limbs shook upwards, and it instantly became dull and boring critical hit. Fatal damage. 2,410 points of blood. The target was dead. The advantage brought by race was self-evident. At the same level, inferior manfish were undoubtedly the weakest professionals in the world. No matter how high their bloodline was, it could not increase their attributes too much. Your small body has borne a lot of blood that shouldn't have been born. You have 2,410 points of blood, and aren't you afraid of exploding? It's a pity that you only have a high-level bloodline. William pouted. Profession advancement missions were not only about one-on-one battles with higher levels. There were many other types, but one-on-one battles with higher levels were not the most common, but there were many. So what were the one-on-one battles for novice players? Usually, they would accept an assassination mission or find a human NPC to fight with higher levels. But humans, no matter what bloodline level, they usually lived in cities. Players would often be beaten to death by the group. If they killed someone, players could revive. William could not. So he chose a simpler one. One-on-one against a tribe of more than thousands of inferior manfish. As long as his luck was not too bad, he would definitely be able to kill 3 middle-level inferior manfish with Grandmaster Bloodline. Even the epic-level inferior manfish was also a small trash inferior manfish. Just 2 moves were not enough to intimidate this group of inferior manfish. They knew themselves. Every time they robbed food, there would be a lot of casualties. But their birth rate and growth rate were even faster. If it wasn't for the fact that their average strength was too low, the inferior manfish could dominate the entire universe. Groups of inferior manfish gripped their weapons tightly and kept rushing towards William. Not to mention leaving a wound on his body. They could even wrap around his back and bite him. But William's battle energy shield was as solid as a rock. He was like a firefly in the night, dazzling. One after another, the inferior manfish rushed up and were pushed back by the battle energy shield. Because when the inferior manfish crashed into the shield, it felt like they had crashed into a wall. After being bounced back, they were all dizzy. They can't even break through the defense. As expected, it's a little too much for a legendary elf to abuse the inferior manfish. William held his sword with both hands and added battle energy to the blade. He suddenly started spinning. Big windmill, a self-created skill. There was no increase in power. It relied entirely on the acceleration of its own rotation. It was such a simple operation, but it was like a lawn mower. Everywhere it passed, there were corpses that were cut in half. Blood flowed like a river. It was so easy. Kill. Bang. William turned around and used his short sword to block. His body didn't move at all. The inferior manfish that shouted kill used the force to somersault and fly out, instantly disappearing into the sea of fish. But in a short period of time, William saw the one. 5-meter-tall inferior manfish. Its skinny body was full of muscles. TSK. It's a small, muscular manfish. Just one hit. He also received information about this inferior manfish. Grandmaster Bloodline, middle-level inferior manfish. Trying to escape, no? William knew the characteristics of the inferior manfish. He knew that this little guy would attack again. So he continued to use his peerless sword to kill other inferior manfish. Against these inferior manfish that he couldn't break through, he had enough battle energy and endurance. William, who seemed to be relaxed, had only killed a few waves when the small merman once again launched a surprise attack. Unfortunately, William, who was already prepared, pulled his sword back. The sword passed through the inferior manfish's body, and a sword energy bloomed from its back. Blood filled the sky, and the inferior manfish behind it were cut in half at the waist. And the incoming harpoon also pierced through the inferior manfish's battle energy shield, brushing past William's neck. However, although William killed the inferior manfish with Grandmaster Bloodline, his 1200 battle energy shield was broken. He needed at least 5 seconds to reactivate his battle energy shield. In an instant, countless inferior manfish who pounced on him, instantly drowning him, piling up into a small mountain. Chapter 58. In the dark night, countless mermen screamed and madly rushed to the center. The moment William's battle energy shield was broken, his entire body was surrounded by small mermen. These small monsters wanted to bite his body, poking his chest with their small harpoons and twisting his fingers. But as a sword energy swept across the ground, it was like a meteor streaking across the army of mermen. Blood filled the sky and fluttered in the wind. The ground was torn with exaggerated marks, and a clear cut appeared in the reeds. All the mermen in front of him were torn to pieces by the sword energy, and blood and bones were all over the sky. Only a tall and strong merman blocked William's sword energy, but he also vomited blood and took many steps back. However, the next moment, a handsome man wrapped in a magic shield appeared in front of him. Saint Spirit's ambush. William's body swapped places with the Holy Soul, and the Holy Soul quickly traversed through space. The second his body returned to reality, he hit the enemy with his head. The little manfish felt dizzy and staggered back a few steps. Then the shining short sword stabbed down, and the merman's chest was pierced. The tip of the sword came out of the body, and its whole body was suspended in the air, but did not die. It hugged William tightly and bit William's neck hard. Blood flowed wildly, and its sharp teeth tore off a piece of flesh. He could only use this method now to give others of his kind a chance. William did not care about the pain at all. He grabbed the merman's head ferociously and pulled with a roar. Crack! The head was separated from the body. Green blood splashed on William's face. The second middle-level merman with a Grandmaster bloodline was killed. The mermen besieged him again, but he opened his battle energy shield again. It was at this moment. The corners of William's mouth curled up slightly, and he stomped hard. Bang! Brutal explosive power gushed out of his body. He, who was far more agile and powerful than the merman, was like a rhinoceros running through the entire army. In the night sky, they could only see a figure shining with white light, passing through the army of mermen. No one could stop his footsteps. No one could stop him from moving forward. The two swords were on both sides, and everywhere they passed, there were chopped off corpses. The sky was full of mermen who were knocked away, like flowers scattered by a fairy, and the enemies in front of them, no matter what methods they used. William, who was like an iron-headed doll, used his head to smash them into pieces. Bang, 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 bang. There was a series of noises, a series of blood-curdling screams. William's battle energy shield was broken again. However, he still didn't choose to stop. He didn't even choose to use his battle energy slash. Instead, he continued to use his body to block all the obstacles in front of him. Thousands of men and horses. I will charge head-on into them. That was what William was thinking. In fact, as long as William didn't use his head to collide with extremely powerful skills, with his tankiness, coupled with sufficient strength and agility, this group of small mermen wouldn't be able to stop him at all. Because you can't even imagine it. The tankiness of a normal legendary NPC. William had yet to equip himself with powerful equipment. But at level 39, with his bloodline, equipment, battle energy, and magic, he had 6,430 health points devastation. Slaughter. A half-step intermediate legendary boss was massacring the small fishmen tribe. Blood flowed like a river. Broken limbs were everywhere, and the reeds on both sides had already become a bloody red. If players saw this scene, they would definitely feel emotional. Such a huge hatred. Could it be that the small merman F** had his A***? Otherwise, this is too much of a bully. This is completely the return of the king of soldiers to tyrannize the city's kindergartens. An hour later, William was covered in blood as he stood on the mountain of corpses. When the remaining small mermen ran away, this tribe of small mermen would disappear from this grassland. The stars were dazzling, and the reeds that flowed like a river with blood did not attract any magical beasts or wild beasts. After all, there was such a strong smell of blood in the territory of the small merman. It was enough to make those with a little bit of intelligence run away. There are 3 intermediate grandmaster small mermen. If there are no accidents, in a few months' time, another small merman tribe will appear here. William was a little emotional. The small mermen were like cockroaches in the real world. They had extremely strong reproductive abilities and were known to be indestructible. The small mermen would even limit the number of people in a tribe. There were only 3,000 small mermen in a tribe like this. If there were no deaths or injuries, they would often kill and eat the old, weak, and sick of their own kind. Otherwise, they also understood that if they continued to reproduce without any restrictions, the whole world would not be enough for them to eat. They also understood that if they really continued to reproduce like this, there would definitely be a stronger existence that would come to deal with them. Mission to exterminate the small merman tribe. Mission introduction. Do it, a novice killer. Kill as you please. Mission difficulty. C. Completed. Reward. 54,100 experience points. Special reward. You have used your own strength to cruelly slaughter more than 3,000 small mermen. You have obtained a title reward. Cruelly? They were clearly the ones who attacked first. William grinned, but the reward was already in his hands. Natural enemy of the small merman. Grade, blue. Title description. After carrying this title, you will attract strong hostility from the small merman and increase the damage to the small merman by 10%. As expected, William did not want to say anything. It was very difficult to obtain a title in the God's world. Usually, the quality of the title was trash. But I have obtained 54,100 experience points. William sat on a pile of corpses and took a short break. Killing more than 3,000 small mermen has also allowed me to earn close to 30,000 experience points. Another 80,000 experience points. Adding the experience I have accumulated before, I now have a total of 180,000 experience points. More importantly, my occupation change mission has been completed. A light flashed in William's eyes as he slowly scrutinized the 6 battle energy attributes that were rewarded. The occupation change mission has been completed. You have killed 6 creatures with Grandmaster bloodlines alone. Reward: 6 battle energy attributes. Choose one only. Do you choose to extract battle energy attributes? Yes. The battle energy attributes that you have extracted are as follows. Fire element battle energy, attribute water element battle energy, attribute thunder element battle energy, attribute wind element battle energy, attribute gold element battle energy, attribute light element battle energy attribute. Damn. Only one special battle energy attribute appeared. William's mouth twitched. If he had known earlier, he would not have extracted it. There were a total of 6 battle energy attributes. 3 of them were normal attributes, 2 of them were rare attributes, and the last one was the special light element battle energy attribute. Although the space and time attributes are very powerful, I did not intend to choose them. But you did not even let me take a look. That is a little too ruthless. William twitched his mouth in disdain. He unhappily chose the thunder element. As for the light element, although it was very special, it was not suitable for him. As for why he chose the thunder element, one of the reasons, he was handsome, and that was enough. Chapter 59. Whether one was strong or not was a matter of the version. Whether one was handsome or not was a matter of life. William was very clear about this. If one was not handsome, no matter how fierce he was, he would not be loved by the bootlickers. Light attribute battle energy was very good for dark creatures. It was not just the light attribute. Fire and thunder attribute battle energy were powerful for dark creatures, so it would not affect him when he bullied dark creatures in the future. The key was the occupation, the level of battle energy and meditation secret manuals, as well as attribute equipment. A mere battle energy attribute would not have much of an impact on William, especially since he had no intention of joining the temple. He was a lord. Not only was the thunder attribute battle energy handsome, it was also very practical. It could paralyze, burn, reduce resistance, tear muscles, slow reaction, and even cause many negative buffs. At the moment, William chose to change his occupation. A figure appeared in the dark night. He silently crept towards the pile of corpses and slowly approached William's back. It was a strong and powerful strike. William's battle energy shield was cut open like tofu. He's here. William's expression changed when he sensed it. Soul shockwave. Buffed. The blade had just pierced William's back when an invisible energy spread in all directions. The assassin and the pile of corpses were sent flying at the same time. The sky was filled with corpses. It was like a rain of corpses. The assassin did not receive a fatal attack. He wanted to twist his body in midair and hide again. But William had a sinister smile on his face. He licked the blood at the corner of his mouth and slowly turned his head. When the assassin saw this, he felt a chill in his heart. But before he could react, a figure appeared out of nowhere. It shot into the sky and appeared directly behind him. Puffed. It was also a sword strike the assassin could not dodge. His eyes widened as he looked at the sword protruding from his chest. He muttered, "How was it possible?" Another sword protruded from his throat. Blood splattered. Alex squinted his eyes and pushed the dead assassin away. He heaved a sigh of relief and threw the body on the ground. He did not let the eyes of the dead assassin see him. This was a shadow assassin, a true assassin. Even in death, he would not let you know who killed you. William took a deep breath. He had said before that he would see a red name or a red question mark on anyone who was hostile to him. Because he can use insight, he had discovered that someone had snuck into the City of Dawn and was secretly observing him. This was enough to alert William. He suspected that the person who once wanted to kill him had appeared again, or perhaps he had to choose a more intense assassination plan. Hence, he created an opportunity. He wanted that person to see him heading to the grasslands alone. He even told Alec to tail him alone and told him not to show himself no matter what, unless the killer appeared. "My lord, your injuries?" Alec looked at the wound on William's back. Blood was gushing out, as if it had pierced through his heart. He could not help but swallow his saliva. William was indeed worthy of being called William. He had not died. William spat out a few liters of blood. He raised his head and waved his hand. "I'm fine. Did you discover any other assassins?" "No, because the moment Milord repelled the first assassin was the best opportunity for the second assassin to strike. Since no one appeared, it meant that there was no second assassin." William exhaled. "That's good." He walked towards the corpse of the assassin and sneered at him. "Since I know who sent you, I don't mind playing with you. What's the use of sneaking around? At most, we'll fight." Alec was silent. No matter who it was, they would inevitably be angry when faced with multiple fatal assassinations. Moreover, he was the great and handsome lord of the City of Dawn. Alec only needed to be loyal to the wise lord. As for whether to fight or assassinate, he only needed to obey orders. Alec was delighted that the Sir Overlord had only informed him in such a critical situation, which meant that the Sir Overlord trusted him. Loyalty plus 300. William glanced at Alec, whose loyalty was close to 800 points. There was nothing wrong with it. What he needed was a dog who had saved him and wanted to increase his affinity for him. "Guard me well. I'm going to choose to break through now." William's voice was cold. Alec looked at William in surprise. He did not expect the Lord to break through so quickly. The admiration in his heart was like a torrential river. Ahem. Anyway, the City Lord had a strong, murderous aura. Looking at the mountain of corpses, it was obvious that the Lord was very angry and unhappy. It was enough for him to choose to shut up. "Do you choose to change occupations?" William silently chose yes. In an instant, his stomach felt like it was on fire. The change in the attributes of the battle energy permeated his entire body. First, it allowed his body to adapt to the thunder battle energy. Next, it changed the quality of the battle energy. This caused William to feel an indescribable pain. Think about it. He had to change his entire body just to adapt to the thunder battle energy. It was even more painful than a woman giving birth. He had no way of avoiding it. Hence, William could only lie on the pile of merman corpses, twitching, rolling his eyes and foaming at the mouth. His body flashed with electricity. Players could set an upper limit for the pain, but the NPCs had no way to change the data. But gradually, William felt more and more comfortable. What was the saying? If one could not resist, then lie down and enjoy it. The initial stage of the body transformation was intense pain. Then it was comfortable, and then it was very comfortable. The endless pain gave him an indescribable sense of satisfaction. If Alec was not beside him, he would have moaned. He only felt that his body was filled with pleasure. Fortunately, it did not take long. William, who had gradually regained control of his body, stood up again. He clenched his fists. It feels like I can kill an orc with one punch. Following that, the thunder battle energy on his body bloomed and formed a new battle energy shield in an instant. Other than a thin layer of thunder battle energy that stuck tightly to the surface of his body, there was also some overflowing battle energy that dissipated into the sky like flames. In this way, it was as if the surface of his body was burning with blue flames. One word, it was extremely cool. With the complete integration of thunder and battle energy, William successfully rose to level 40 and became a middle-level professional. And for professionals with strong bloodline potential, the difference between middle-level and beginner was like heaven and earth. One had to remember, for NPCs, especially for intelligent races like humans, having a high bloodline often meant that one had a good family background. With a good family background, one could learn better skills and have better equipment. Low bloodline potential, ugly people, poor families, and other than having great luck, there was almost no future. They were all cannon fodder. There was such a big difference between the two at the same stage. After another stage, the difference would become more and more obvious. This was also the key reason why players could only choose to gang up on epic and legendary NPCs. It was because they knew that it was too difficult to use techniques against these types of NPCs unless they did not make a single mistake. And I, who have entered the middle level, finally dare to take risks. William looked into the distance. The game has just begun. Chapter 60. Skill Attribute. Can enchant weapons and arrows. Increase 230% X intelligence. Soul damage. 2 high-level secret manuals stacked together. Each upgrade could add an additional 1 free attribute point. As for the blessing of the Holy Spirit, a Holy Spirit will be born in my body, and there will be a chance to help me block damage and even counterattack. What's the use of it? William glanced at his single-digit luck value, which was obviously free. Level 3 special effect. Magic attack power increases by 18% and carries 130 points of soul attribute damage. Strength, 200 plus 25 plus 18, plus 10 plus 15. Light of Dawn. On a certain battle energy skill, add 50% battle energy value, and can increase attack power by 250% and thunder damage by 230 points. Cooldown of 23 minutes. Weakness, the higher the bloodline potential, the higher the possibility of failure. Skill Attribute. Swing a sword forward, and if it hits the enemy, it can cause Strength X 210% damage. There is a certain chance of causing bleeding. Fatal Continuous Shot Level 3 Special Effect. Additional 100 points of true damage. Hand of Soul. New. Level 9. Level 3 Special Effect. When all 3 arrows hit the head, the 3rd arrow will definitely cause 190% critical damage to the enemy. Special Effect Cooldown. 25 seconds. The 4D data belongs to normal attributes and does not include the bloodline bonus. I will only mention the contents in brackets once, in case you say that I am weak. Special Effect. Health plus 1200 foot. You have successfully advanced to an intermediate professional. Special Effect. Health plus 1500 level 3 Special Effect. Hitting the enemy 3 times in a row will trigger 1 to 3 seconds of body paralysis. Naturally, it could also increase attribute points, and it was quite a lot. For example, choosing blacksmithing, the Kirin arm would become thicker and thicker every day, and the strength would naturally increase. Consumption, 5 points of mana cooldown. 5 seconds level 3 special effect. After the confinement fails, there's a 37% chance of causing the enemy to have negative buffs such as fear and escape. William added 8 attribute points to strength and agility. Level 9 distance, within 17 meters. This is the reason why intermediate professionals are strong. As long as the battle energy protection is activated, the secret's attributes and special effects will double, and there are other special effects stacked together, which is equivalent to the essence of the battle energy changing. But the 25% increase in movement speed is a bit powerful, 10% more than the Grandmaster's secret, a bit abnormal. William was overjoyed. Blessing of the Elfin God, passive, level 9 battle energy value, 2300/2300 point soul, blast LVL, 9 special effect. Physical long-range skills have 20% armor penetration. Level 3, age, 16 bloodline potential, legendary, level 40 basic attributes, plus 40%. Maximum level 100. There's a certain chance of inflicting a bleeding status. Cooldown 1. 5 minutes. As for life professions, after the shield disappears, it can be activated again after 5 seconds. Cooldown none. William fixed his gaze on a battle energy effect. Consumption. 70 MP Holy Necromancer skill tree. Ghost Arrow, new. As for the Ghost Arrow, it is also very useful. Once I have enough EXP to max level it, it can be considered a godly skill. The importance of piercing through objects and directly hitting the enemy is simply too great. It is a good method for sneak attacks. For players and NPCs, if they had dual professions, apart from the 4 free attribute points each time they leveled up. Level 9 skill attribute. Long-range physical attack damage increased by 21%, no cost, no cooldown. Your battle energy technique and meditation secret manual have broken through the upper limit of level 15 and can reach a maximum of level 30. At the side, Alec could only feel that William's aura was rising again and again. His strength was like a roller coaster. After killing a bunch of small mermen, he leveled up. In the blink of an eye, his strength had increased again and his aura was almost catching up to him. Because you have elven blood, charm plus 10. Sigh, the brain is a good thing, but it is also the most fatal part of gods. If you don't protect your brain well, you will not be far from death. An epic secret manual could only give +1, but 2 epic secret manuals could give +3 free attribute points. After control, the enemy's health points will recover to 64%. Special effect, power +25, physical strength +25, agility +25, intelligence +18 level. LVL 9, level 9 special effect. 2 pairs of soul tentacles can appear at the same time and confine 2 enemies. Distance, within 7 meters. Special effect, your magic resistance increases by 3%, but cannot be said that. Level 3 special effect. If you hit the head, there is a 10% chance of critical damage doubling. Holy Spirit's blessing. A Holy Spirit will condense in your body. Every time the enemy attacks in close combat, the Holy Spirit will have a certain chance of blocking and counterattacking. All the attributes of physical strength equals health. The plus sign behind the health is the increase in health brought by battle energy, secret manuals, meditation secret manuals, and equipment. Spirit Control William deeply understood that under safe circumstances, professionals would not use battle energy to attach themselves to their bodies. If the ghost arrow was stolen, if it was a headshot, it would definitely cause fatal damage. In addition, there was a 10% chance that the critical damage would be doubled. It was a killing move. The only problem was that there was a wall between them. How could they hit the head? Special effect. When you activate battle energy to protect your body, the secret manual's special effect X2, and your movement speed increases by 25%. New. From level 15 onwards, every time I level up, I will have an additional 4 free attribute points. This is the advantage brought by the legendary battle energy technique and meditation secret manual. It gives me a great advantage in attributes in the early stages, but it has also reached the limit of the free attribute points that I can obtain. William laughed. The help brought by the legendary secret manual was simply too great. Skill attribute. You can control an enemy in the state of weakness, less than 19% of health. I have to say, William slowly clenched his fist and looked at the sky. I become arrogant. Magic points. 2,300 points health points. 6,200 plus 1,500 plus 1,200 plus 600 skill attribute. When your arrow or sword energy hits the enemy, you can use the Holy Spirit to wrap yourself and travel through space to the enemy to attack. Level 3 Special Effect. Increase the control rate of enemies with Master Bloodline by 3%. Skill range 0-10 meters. William narrowed his eyes and laughed so hard that his legs were about to close. Holy Dawn Battle Energy Life Sacrifice. You can extract the soul of a weak enemy, less than 10% of health, and can restore 30% of health. Charm 93 plus 9 recovery speed. 80 points / second consumption. 100 points of battle energy. Level 9 agility. 215 plus 25 plus 18 plus 12 battle energy body. The surface of the body can produce a battle energy shield equal to the battle energy value. It consumes 70 battle energy value per second. The basic defense is 380. If the attack power exceeds the upper limit of the defense, the battle energy value can be consumed. If the attack power exceeds the defense value by 2 times, the shield can be directly shattered. Previous consumption 100 magic points. Skill attribute. For every 80 points of battle energy consumed, 1 Thundersword energy can be swung. It can consume up to 480 points of battle energy. 6 consecutive swings of sword energy can cause x180% damage to the enemy each time it hits. Because you have become an intermediate professional, all 4 attributes are plus 10. Restriction. The higher the bloodline potential, the higher the failure rate. For every level higher than you, the failure rate increases. It was not only the bonus of the bloodline. The key was that if the legendary NPC had a legendary secret book, it would be so powerful that it would make people's hair stand on end. This was also the reason why various bosses were divided into different levels. The key was whether there was a matching secret book, equipment, skills, etc. Level 20, 0/57300 experience. William looked at his own attributes and skills and couldn't help but sigh. He wanted to cry and said, "This is a legendary boss, and it's a legendary boss whose equipment hasn't been upgraded." Level 40 talent, Power of Thunder. You have 10% Thunder attribute attack power and 10% Thunder resistance. New cooldown 2. 5 minutes, and that was in the case of not breaking through. The breakthrough of the blacksmith profession could bring a lot of free attribute points and a fixed strength attribute. It was just that there were more free attribute points than the combat profession. The special effects and skills activated were as follows. So the attributes of the players wouldn't be low. The only thing they couldn't compare to NPCs was that they didn't have the bloodline bonus, and it was difficult to obtain 2 special talents. Holy Spirit enchantment skill attribute. With yourself as the center, create a soul shock wave, causing 350 plus 270% X intelligence, damage to enemies within a radius of 12 meters, and trigger a 6 to 8 meter knockback effect, and 37% chance of causing dizziness for 5 seconds. Cooldown time, 5 seconds physical strength, 78 plus 25 plus 18, plus 15 plus 19. Holy Spirit ambush level 3 special effect. After the skill is used, increase your own movement speed by 36% for 36 seconds. Level 9 special effect. Increase the chance of shield breaking by 10% and cause 290 plus 210% X strength, physical damage. Luck 3. He glanced at the 3 new skills. The Thunder Consecutive Slash is very strong. If I can use all my sword energy in an instant and hit the enemy directly, it will definitely be very powerful. And with the support ability of the Hand of Soul, I can use a move to pull the enemy or punch the enemy back. This greatly increases my long-range threat. Attribute, Thunder Experience, 234/123,240, level 9 endowment. Middle level life, 1 physical strength equals 40 health points. Cooldown time, 25 seconds. Holy Spirit skill tree distance, 70 meters cooldown. None restriction, can only control 2 people level. Legendary cooldown time, 18 second skill attribute. A pair of soul tentacles suddenly emerge from the ground, grab the enemy, and imprison him for 9 seconds. If he didn't know that this was his lord, Alec would have pulled off William's clothes and touched him to see if he was really his handsome leader. Level 9 special effect. Increase the control rate of epic bloodline enemies by 1%. Then use the extra experience to level up his battle energy and meditation secrets to level 20. Level legendary stamina, 2,680 plus 800 plus 200. Level 3 special effect. If you are held in the hands of the Hand of Soul, you will have a fear buff that lasts for 30 seconds. Level 9 special effect. After using the Saint Spirit's ambush, your movement speed will increase by 20% for 20 seconds. When you choose to attack, it will cause 180 plus 130% X intelligence, soul damage. Depending on the enemy's physical strength and physical strength, it will determine whether the enemy will be pulled back or knocked back. Special effect. Any battle energy skills will have an 18% increase in power and 130 points of thunder damage. Level 9 special effect. After the skill is used, the user will have a shield of 1,000 mana points. It has no defense and will disappear after 3 seconds. The basic attributes are as follows. Level 9 special effect. The sword energy has a 10% armor penetration effect. As you have become a middle-level professional, you have awakened a new endowment, the power of thunder. Level 9 consumption, 70 mana points. Thunder consecutive slash. New. Players who did not choose a subclass did not have any complaints. Although a subclass only increased a certain attribute and did not have many free attribute points, it was not a bad idea to choose a suitable subclass and increase one's attributes by one's own. Although a subclass only increased a certain attribute and had fewer free attribute points, it was not a bad idea to choose a suitable subclass and increase a certain attribute. William's current strength had been reborn. The terrifying 4-dimensional attributes of a legendary boss had completely appeared. You have broken through the skill limit by 7 levels and can be upgraded to level 15. Casting speed. Instant level 3 special effect. The sword energy has repelling and tearing effects. It depends on the enemy's physical strength and physical strength. Saint's Soul magic consumption. 80 mana points per second. You have reached level 40. All 5 attributes have increased by 1, including charm. You have obtained 4 free attribute points and 4 free attribute points from the 2 legendary manuals. Profession, Guardian of Dawn endowment. Middle level magic power, 1 point of intelligence equals 1. 2 points of magic attack. The first 13 chapters have been changed. Level 3 special effect. After the enchanted arrow hits the enemy, it will cause an explosion that can cause 110% X intelligence, soul damage. The explosion range is 5 times 5 times 5 meters. Restriction. If you successfully enslave an enemy, you have to use soul control once a day to increase the brand. If not, the probability of betrayal will increase. If you enslave the enemy for a long time, it will form a permanent soul brand. Skill attribute. Using soul magic as an arrow, you can shoot a ghost arrow that can penetrate armor, walls, trees, and other physical objects. It can also cause 180 plus 180% X intelligence, damage to the enemy's physical body. Special effect, power plus 18, physical strength plus 18, agility plus 18, intelligence plus 32 endowment. Handsome, passive, cooldown, 60 seconds. The brackets are equipment plus 10%. The brackets are battle energy and magic manuals plus 10%. Equipment cannot bring bloodline plus 10%. Battle energy cut recovery speed, 80 points per second. This also made him understand why the top legendary bosses in his previous life were so hard to beat. Cooldown, 30 seconds. There was something more important. Level 3 special effect. After using the Saint Soul ambush, a shield with the same amount of magic will be produced. It will last for 5 seconds. Of course, this was limited to players with dual combat professions. Consumption: 190 battle energy points intelligence. 86 plus 18 plus 32 plus 8 skill attribute. Can shoot 3 arrows in a row. If all of them hit the enemy, the first arrow will cause X1 80% damage. The second arrow will cause X2 10% damage, and the third arrow will cause X2 40% damage. Special effect: when you activate the battle energy to protect your body, the secret manual's special effect X2, and your movement speed will increase by 25%. New skill attribute: Condense a soul hand. You can pull, attack, touch, and all other actions. Its size is 40 times the size of your palm. When you're not attacking, pulling a non-living object will consume a certain amount of magic value according to the size of the object. Based on the size of the object, you will be able to determine whether you can pull or push it away. Level 20, 0/57300. Level 9 special effect. Hitting the enemy 6 times in a row will cause the body to be stiff for 3 to 5 seconds. William Blackleaf special effect. When the enemy attacks the shield in close combat, it will easily trigger the thunder reflection, causing the enemy to receive a negative buff. New cooldown: 2 seconds. Level 9 special effect. If all the enemies are hit by the fatal shots, 50% of the battle energy will be returned. You have advanced to the Guardian of Dawn. Special attributes are as follows. With the 2 Guru secret manuals stacked together, every time you level up, you will get an additional 2 points of free attribute points. Only 1 point can be added. Cooldown: none consumption. 50 magic value level. Level 9 soul tentacle race. Half-elf consumption. None consumption. 90 magic value consumption. 480 battle energy value other skills, and a new skill were all leveled up to level 9. Due to the lack of experience, the 2 new skills could only be leveled up to level 3. Chapter 61. There was no need to talk about being reckless. After William successfully leveled up, the first thing he did was to bring Alec back to the town and catch the spy. The level 62 killer was not very famous, but William knew who the killer belonged to and who he was working for. So there was no need to keep the spy alive. But when the 2 of them left, Alec did not notice a figure slowly walking out from the bushes. It was Lautner. He just wanted to test if Alec was loyal enough. The 2 of them returned to the City of Dawn that night. William was covered in blood. The guards on the city walls were shocked. They hurriedly lowered the drawbridge and opened the city gates. Then, the 2 of them came to a private house. William kicked down the door. The person in the house seemed to have sensed something. Just as he was about to escape through the window, William raised his hand and shot an arrow through his thigh. He screamed and fell. "My lord, do you need me to interrogate him?" Alec came to William's side and asked. William narrowed his eyes. He grabbed the spy's hair and dragged him into the house. "I'll do it myself." "No, my lord, let me go." "Oh no." William could not tolerate the spy's screams. No matter how much he struggled, he could not break free. William glanced at the spy in front of him. He exerted force and pulled out the spy's hair. His scalp was also pulled out, causing blood to flow. The spy could not help but cry out in pain. But in the City of Dawn, no one would save him. "Tell me, who sent you here?" "My lord, what are you talking about?" "I don't know anything. I just want to be a commoner here." Crack. William broke the spy's right leg with 1 foot. The white leg bone was exposed to the air. Before the spy could hug his leg and cry, William grabbed the lower half of the leg bone and suddenly pulled. "Ah, my leg, my leg." The spy's eyes widened. He could not imagine that the blood-stained elf in front of him was the kind and amiable lord. And what kind of interrogation method was this? Was there need to be so cruel? Even though he knew that his identity had been exposed when William kicked the door, how could there be such a cruel interrogation method? Shouldn't he use the soft approach first before using the hard approach? Not playing by the rules, William carried the leg bone with flesh and blood on it and slowly squatted down in front of the spy. He said in a cold voice, "Tell me everything you know, or I'll feed you your own flesh. Then I'll keep you captive until you've eaten all the flesh in your body and died." The spy shuddered. At this moment, he finally believed it. The devil before him would definitely do such a thing. His kindness and amiability in the past were just a facade. No wonder the leader wanted to kill him. No wonder the leader thought this elf was an obstacle to their freedom. The Lord of Dawn deserved to die. The leader is right. Only by occupying the town of Dawn can the Freedom Army advance and retreat. The information I send out is correct. He deserves to die. The spy fell into his fantasy and forgot that there was an impatient legendary boss in front of him. Was William cruel? No, he just didn't want to die. Had anyone ever thought about how much a transmigrator who loved dragons would fear this world after he really transmigrated? Had anyone ever thought about how scared a player who could respawn countless times would be when he entered the game with only one life left? How scared was William? No matter when or where, he would want to tie Lautner to himself. Did this count? He was really scared. He was scared to death. It was just that he usually hid it very well. He looked very amiable, relaxed, and indifferent. But it didn't mean that he wasn't afraid of death. He was clearly avoiding contact with the human nations and people who posed a threat. But long before he transmigrated, someone had wanted to kill him for no reason. Even now, he didn't want to give up. The devil in his heart was magnified. He wanted to turn everyone who wanted to kill him into ashes. Ever since he knew who that person was, he dared to believe that he, his family, and friends in this world, absolutely no one had provoked that person. But that person wanted to kill him. Then, he didn't mind using the most brutal method to treat him and his subordinates. William suddenly stepped on the spy's broken leg. Puffed. Blood splattered on the ground. The spy stared with bloodshot eyes. The veins on his neck bulged. He clenched his fists tightly. He still looked at William fiercely, not saying a word. The spy's broken leg had already been stepped on into a pile of rotten meat. His leg bones had been pulled out, but it only made him feel even more hatred. This kind of hatred made the spy unimaginably tolerant of William's torture. But as a veteran player with an upper limit of 50% pain, he was really used to death and torture. In his previous life, he liked this kind of real free world. He was once a legend. He was still one now. William smiled sinisterly and slowly extended his slender hands towards him. Screams came one after another, rhythmic, like a beautiful note in the night sky. Horrifying wails and begging for mercy could be heard in a radius of 100 meters. Alex stood guard outside the door. He couldn't help but shiver. It was enough to imagine that even an assassin like him was afraid. Wouldn't the nearby neighbors be traumatized? Fortunately, there were many patrolling guards nearby. They told the civilians to stay at home and told them that an assassin wanted to assassinate the Lord and had been caught. The civilians suddenly understood and didn't feel any pity for these wails. After all, in their hearts, the Lord gave them the best treatment. This was something that other human nations couldn't give. The kind-hearted Lord had been assassinated. It was nothing even if the assassin was tortured to death. But they had never thought that the Lord would personally torture the assassin. Hence, they listened to the screams for the whole night. William didn't ask again, even if the spy in front of him couldn't take it anymore and wanted to say something. But he didn't want to continue the interrogation. After William transmigrated, he could die at any time. He vented all his anger on this guy until there wasn't a piece of good flesh on his body, until he was skinned and his tendons pulled out. Early morning, William pushed open the door and walked out. When some guards went in to clean up the corpses, they saw the room full of blood and flesh. There were many corpses with exposed bones. They immediately vomited and vomited again. What happened to the spy? Lautner stood beside him and asked quietly. William squatted by the river and washed his face. He took a deep breath and said, "He was only monitoring me and providing information to others. What you did was too cruel. This isn't like you. A strong person shouldn't know." William interrupted him and said bluntly, "Since the weak chose to challenge the strong, then they should be mentally prepared. There's no reason for them to want my life. I just killed them very cheaply. I let them enter hell without any pain or torture." William slowly stood up and looked into Lautner's eyes. "When I was weak, my enemies made me live in fear. I could endure it and not even dare to let out a fart. I could pretend that I didn't know anything about the assassinations. But the moment I gained power and authority, my revenge just began. Lautner's gaze was a little complicated. He didn't think that William would change so much after he left the Dark Knight City. But no matter what, Lautner will be your executive officer. Uncle? I'll leave first. You don't have to call me Uncle. Goodbye. Chapter 62. That night, William took a comfortable bath and lay down on the bed. He started to recall his past memories. Freedom. In any world, in any era, there would be people who would raise the horn of freedom and rebel against the current social system. They felt that the current life was unfair to them. They felt that the current life was not for humans and should be overthrown. Everyone should be equal, and there should be no aristocrats. In version 1.0, Gerdanasses was the one who raised the horn of freedom. Not only did he have brainwashing speech skills, but he also had the top abilities of this version. The Iron Nation, the Black Lava Nation, and even the border town in his previous life were all destroyed under his plan. In the end, he became the true ruler of the region. To put it bluntly, he was the main character of version 1.0. The so-called king of the Iron Nation was just a puppet. Under his control, the nobles of the Iron Nation met with many accidents, and the power of the nobles was constantly weakened. Internal ministers, army commanders, and local officials appeared one after another. They regained their power and implemented system reforms. But when the nobles of the Iron Nation completely declined and the Black Lava Nation was destroyed, what did the so-called freedom represent? The lawless freedom only made the crazy commoners and slaves become violent thugs. The legendary continent in version 1.0 is a version that made the players regret. The Iron Nation changed the aristocratic system to freedom, abolished slavery, and stripped the nobles of their titles. This attracted too many players, because the players lived under a system of freedom. After the players entered this game world, they were not used to the aristocratic system. They were willing to fight for freedom. Many players who were morally coerced kept promoting the benefits of freedom on the forum. Hence, with the help of the unlimited revival of the player army, the Iron Nation successfully defeated the Black Lava Nation. But the victory did not make the players feel that this system was good. Instead, they felt disgusted. The lawless slaves and commoners who did not meet the standards were like devils after the nobles stopped suppressing them. They cruelly killed all those in power. The good-looking noble ladies would be gang-raped and ravaged by countless men until they died. At that time, the Black Lava Nation was like hell. There were killings, rapes, and robberies everywhere. This was especially true for the manors of nobles, which were often swarmed by slaves. Everywhere they went, miserable screams and wails could be heard. Countless slaves swarmed in. If the women did not want to be tortured, they could only commit suicide. Otherwise, he would be tortured again and again and even imprisoned. There were even some beautiful women who had been tortured to death, but there were still slaves lining up to vent the evil fire in their bodies. What is this? The oppressed civilians were wrong? Or was it the slaves who were enslaved that were wrong? No. According to the ways of this world's nobles, it didn't seem wrong for the commoners and slaves to vent their frustrations. Because it was Gerdanasses who was wrong. He could have chosen to stop them, or at least let those nobles die peacefully. But he ignored everything. He waited for the slaves and commoners to vent their frustrations. After the aristocratic constitution was completely disintegrated and destroyed by the slaves, the cabinet ministers who controlled the army once again suppressed a group of rioters. Commoners were still commoners. Slavery? Although Gerda said that he was gone, he still made those who raped and killed nobles slaves again in the name of committing a crime. Was this true freedom and equality? No, this was just a scheme for him to gain power. He was borrowing the general trend to become stronger from the flames of war. But what did the commoners have to say? They didn't, because Gerda succeeded in giving them freedom and abolishing the aristocratic system. As for those rapists and robbers, shouldn't they be turned into slaves? After all, according to their habits, if they committed a crime, then they should be turned into slaves. At least they didn't become slaves themselves. At least it was somewhat different from the aristocratic system in the past. But very few commoners could see clearly that it was Gerda who condoned the slaves to commit crimes. Gerda was still the one who held the power. The first subordinates who followed him became cabinet ministers and army leaders. They were the new generation of aristocrats, just with a different name. The so-called equality and freedom was just changing the aristocratic system into another system of rights. There was no so-called equality for everyone because it was impossible. The current system isn't very good, and the nobles aren't very kind. But it is precisely because of the aristocratic system that this world can maintain peace and reduce the number of human deaths. Do you really want to change the social system of a continent? How many people will die in a legendary continent? Moreover, this is a world where individual strength is respected, true freedom. Even the 23rd century Earth can't achieve it. It can be said that all organizations that use freedom as a bugle call are evil cults. William laughed coldly. If one wanted to change a certain system, the system had to first reach a certain lifespan. The current aristocratic system was far from the brink of collapse. How could one change the system? This was simply impossible. I wanted to endure it. I wanted to be a lord and recruit players. I wanted to slowly level up and kill monsters. I wanted to watch the war between the two nations. But you've really touched my bottom line, William muttered in his heart. Then he fell asleep. The next day, he came to the fortune-telling hut. It was rare to see a fortune-telling hut open in the morning. Moses was stroking the black cat in his arms. He used his hands to separate the two front paws and skillfully placed his face on the black cat's chest. He took a deep breath and looked satisfied. Then he fiercely rubbed meow. The black cat suddenly saw William and actually cried out nervously and shyly. But Moses didn't care and continued to stroke the cat. He didn't even greet the Lord. After all, William had come too many times, and he was too lazy to deal with him. Meow, meow, meow. The black cat struggled for a while and used a lot of strength to break free from Moses' hands. It jumped onto the table and glanced at Moses before running away angrily. Moses licked his lips in reminiscence before looking up at William. Lord, where are you going to divine? It was obvious that he could see that William had broken through to an intermediate professional. But in his eyes, this speed of breakthrough was nothing, because he was a true genius. From the age of 13, he started practicing magic and became an enchanter, epic. It took him a total of 8 years. When he became an enchanter, he was only 21 years old. Now, he was only 30 years old. He was only in his 30s and looked no different from a young man. If not for the curse that had delayed the speed of breaking through, he had absolute confidence that he would become a true legendary at 25 years old. William was helpless against this speed of training. There were many NPCs with legendary bloodlines. It could even be said that legendary were like dogs and epic were everywhere. This was because it was still talent and did not represent one's level. Most NPCs with legendary bloodlines did not have the chance to become legendary. Many of them would die in the early stages. Even if they really became legendary, it would take at least tens or hundreds of years. There were simply too few NPCs with this kind of incredible talent and cultivation speed. He had always suspected that Moses' holy vein had the endowment of mage god. Although he had never seen it before, he could feel that there was something about Moses. I'm not here to divine. I'm just here to chat. Just say it. Help me enchant. Moses tilted his head and helplessly stretched out a hand. Weapons or equipment? Take them out. Clap, clap. William clapped his hands and suddenly turned to the doorknob. Come, come, come. Take out all your equipment. 500 elves appeared in an instant. They happily blocked the entrance of the fortune-telling hut. They held silver-quality armor and weapons in their hands. This was a complete set. A complete set had about 5 to 8 pieces. The 500 elven guards under William had all advanced to the intermediate level. They were the first to change their equipment. All of them were of silver quality and had set attributes. It could be said that these pieces of equipment were made with money. If William did not have a mine, he could not afford to play with them. But because he had a mithril mine and so many advanced blacksmiths, he could make so many sets of silver-quality equipment. Moses, who was unsuspecting because he was stroking the cat, was in a daze he looked at William in bewilderment and pointed at him. He was speechless for a long time. "Mo, I know you're the best. Why don't you enchant my equipment as well?" William laughed and took out his gold-quality equipment from the hands of the guard behind him. Moses pondered for 2 seconds. "Who are you? Where am I? I want to sleep. Help me close the door." Chapter 63. There were many ways of enchantment. There were 2 common enchantment methods. The first method was for a magician to cast a spell and permanently add a special effect to the weapon and equipment. It could increase the attack power, defense power, attributes, or special skills. The second method was to choose some magical materials and embed them on the equipment. It was not limited to gems, crystals, scales, and so on. William was going to do the first enchantment. "Hey, this is for you." Moses expressionlessly threw William's equipment to him. William grinned as he held the equipment in his hands. Just by looking at the attributes, he could not help but laugh out loud. Moses glanced at him and said bluntly, "Are you done looking? If you are, make way. There's still people queuing behind." "Ahem, there's another set. But this set increases the attack power and not the defense. The enchantment must have thunder attributes." William silently took out another set of gold equipment. Moses widened his eyes. William was just a middle-level professional, but he had 2 sets of gold equipment. One was for defense, and the other for attack. Was he that rich? Was he that extravagant? His family had mines. However, Moses only complained his heart. His hands still picked up the equipment obediently and started the enchantment work in a relaxed manner. In less than 30 seconds, that was right. It was that fast. Moses completed another enchantment. He glanced at William. William nodded. "I understand. I'll make a move first. I'll treat you to a drink tomorrow." When he left, the fortune-telling hut was completely filled with elves, no matter what. William did not build a good impression with Moses for nothing. At least, he did not reject the large-scale enchantment. Although William's actions were troublesome, it allowed the bored Moses to find something to do. "Oh, my mother told me since young that we should not waste time. We should use our limited time on meaningful things. For example, serving the city of dawn." William smacked his lips. He returned to the hut and took out all his equipment to feel the power. 2 sets of equipment. 1 set of armor for the battlefield. The other set of armor for field battles. Both were gold equipment. William's family had mines, so he could do whatever he wanted with money. As for the equipment of the elfin guards, although their defensive equipment was silver equipment, their weapons were gold. As for William's weapons, they were all dark gold. After all, it was very difficult for weapons and equipment to form set attributes. Based on the current situation, the 500 elven guards under my command, even if their levels and skills aren't high enough, have reached the limit of intermediate professions. It was impossible for William to change the equipment of all the elfin guards to gold quality. The price was far from what he could afford. Even so, the several hundred kilograms of mithril that he had left behind had been completely used up. Moreover, he still had to spend a large sum of money to buy some gold essence, adamant crystals, and various other rare materials in Blue Moon Town. Gold essence was obviously a rare material that could raise a piece of equipment to a gold grade. Its value was no less than a mithril or vein. William had not sold his mithril for 2 months, which was why he was able to make so many silver equipment sets. As for a set of equipment, it required a helmet, breastplate, gauntlets, greaves, and shoes. William's new equipment set was called the Dawn Equipment Set and the Thunder Equipment Set. The Dawn Equipment Set's attributes were as follows. Helm of Dawn Grade, Gold Level, Intermediate created by Lautner and Odom Heavy Hammer Materials, Mithril, Iron Essence, Gold Essence. Head Defense, 130, 160 Strength, plus 12 Agility, plus 4 Stamina, plus 12 Charm, plus 5 Weight. 0. 9 kg usage requirement. 130 points of Strength Special Effect. Headshot damage reduced by 20% Special Effect. Health plus 400 Enchantment. Basic Defense plus 40 Armor. Gauntlets, greaves, and shoes. Set Effect. Overall defense and health plus 20%. There was no other way. The attributes of the 5 pieces of gold-colored equipment were already very strong. In addition to the set effect, he was already ridiculously tanky. Defense and health increased by 20%. But remember, these defenses could not be stacked together. The defense of the helmet was for the head, while the defense of the armor was for the upper body. It was not the defense of the 5 pieces of equipment added together. That's right, it was so real. Only the set effect increased the defense of the whole body. But even so, William's defense was still ridiculously high. He wanted to stack the thickest armor and receive the most vicious beatings. He wanted to display the characteristics of a legendary boss to the fullest. He wanted to let ordinary soldiers slash him 100 times without batting an eyelid. And the Thunder equipment set was as follows: Thunder Helmet Grade, Gold Level, Intermediate created by Lautner and Odom Heavy Hammer Materials, Secret Silver, Thunder Crystal, Gold Essence Defense. 130, 160 power plus 12 agility plus 6 physical strength plus 10 charm plus 5 weight. 0. 9 kg usage requirement. 120 points of strength special effect. Thunder damage plus 10% special effect. Health plus 300 enchantment. Thunder attack plus 30 set effect. Chain of lightning skill special effect. When you use Thunder Battle Energy, there's a 30% chance of creating a chain of lightning. It will cause Thunder Attack X 80% chain damage to all enemies within 10 meters. Skill cooldown, 20-second skill consumption. None. It's so powerful that it makes people's hair stand on end. In the future, I can change occupations to become the Thunder God. Odom, that blonde wavy hair, can retire. William licked his lips. The Thunder set was powerful because of the Thunder attribute increase and attack power. It allowed him to have explosive damage. His defense and health were greatly reduced, but it was too powerful. The Thunder attack of the 5-piece set was 170 points. With the addition of the 130 points of Thunder attack from a battle energy, it was 300 points. At the same time, the Thunder damage of the set was increased by 48%. With the 10% from the Thunder endowment, it was a total of 58% Thunder damage. In the early stages of the game, when most players had little elemental resistance, he was a humanoid Thunder Dragon. Along the way, there were sparks and lightning. He was unstoppable. If I have an instance dungeon in the future, the Thunder Resistance Potion will be sold like crazy. William glanced at his 3 new dark gold weapons. He could not help but sigh. I have to say, these weapons look awesome. Among them, Blade of Daybreak had become a dark gold quality sword of thunder. Its attributes and attack power had increased, and there was an additional special effect. There were not many changes, but the other 2 weapons had great changes. Lightning Bow Quality, Dark Gold Level, Intermediate Creator, Lautner and Odom Heavy Hammer Materials, Secret Silver, Iron Wood, Thunder Crystal, Adamantine Crystal Attack. 350, 510 power plus 12 agility plus 16 charm plus 6 length. 120 cm weight. 2. 8 kg usage requirement. 170 points of strength and above. Special effect. Headshot damage increased by 30%. Special effect. Each arrow will increase thunder damage by 20%. Special effect. Thunder Arrow Rain. Consume battle energy and condense thunder battle energy into arrows and shoot them into the sky. There will be thunder arrows raining down on the enemy. Effect can cause 350 plus thunder attack x 180% thunder damage. Cooldown 20 seconds consumption. 200 battle energy points. Poison short sword quality. Dark gold level. Intermediate creator. Lautner and Odom Heavy Hammer Materials. Secret Silver, Iron Essence, Adamantine Crystal Attack. 270, 460 power plus 14 agility plus 16 charm plus 5 length. 33 cm weight. 1. 8 kg usage requirement. 150 points of strength and above. Special effect. Attack from the back increases the basic attack power by 40%. Special effect. Has a tearing effect. There is a 30% chance of causing bleeding damage to the enemy. Every second loses 100 health points. Lasts for 15 seconds. This special effect cannot be stacked. Special effect. If the enemy is hit, it will cause 200 points of poison damage per second. It will also cause a 10% reduction in overall attributes. Lasts for 10 seconds. This special effect cannot be stacked. The effect cannot be stacked. Every time the special effect ends, I have to hit the target again with the short sword to cause new special damage. William narrowed his eyes. His overall strength had changed drastically. Why did William make a poison short sword? It was to weaken the enemy's strength. Other than continuous poison damage, the poison weapon also had the ability to weaken attributes. The upgrade of his equipment made William a powerful boss among the middle-level professionals. One of the most important things was the multiple arrows of the Thunder Arrow Rain depended on the probability of triggering the chain lightning of the equipment set. It was a very good skill to clear monsters. And with the power of his equipment, other than the advanced professionals who were at the upper limit of the version, William had the ability to fight against other intermediate professionals. But the most surprising thing is the epic inner armor. It has been upgraded again. William laughed. Love's blessing quality, epic level, intermediate type, defense equipment that can grow materials, secret silver, branches and leaves of the world tree, adamantine, etc. Creator, Alice Blackleaf Health, plus 1,000 endurance, plus 400 power, plus 18 physical strength, plus 16 agility, plus 12 intelligence, plus 10 durability, 1,300 weight. 3 kg defense. Within the protection area of the inner armor, attacks below 350 points will not be able to cause damage to the inner armor and the user. Attacks that exceed this limit will cause effective damage and reduce the durability. Elemental protection. Any elemental damage will be reduced by 15%. Love's blessing. Passive when a user's health drops below 10%. He will receive the Love's blessing and instantly recover 60% of his health. Cooldown of 20 minutes. Usage requirement. William Blackleaf usage requirement. 90 points of power growth requirement. Become an advanced professional. Put 1 kilogram of secret silver, 1 kilogram of adamantine, and 1 kilogram of orichalcum on the inner armor, and the inner armor will automatically evolve. After William put on the Thunder equipment set, he could not help but smack his lips and laugh. Such powerful attributes make people feel hopeless. 12140 health points, officially over 10,000. This doesn't include the bonus of the legendary bloodline. It's at least 3 times higher than a player of the same level. His damage output is so high, and his defense is so exaggerated. William couldn't help but laugh secretly. Bang, bang. Come in. Sia seemed to hear the Lord's wretched laughter. She pushed the door open but did not enter. Of course, her breast still came in. William used an undetectable gaze to glance at her. He asked curiously, "What's wrong?" The messengers from the Temple of Light, the Palace of Darkness, and the Mercenary Guild are here again. Sia said softly at the door. "Oh, why?" William stood up and walked out. They said that the branch building is too remote. They want to discuss with you whether you can change the location. Sia was actually very curious as well. These 3 powerful neutral forces had a certain say in any city. She did not expect that the Lord would actually place the 3 buildings at the edge of the city. They were not in the business district at all. There were not many people at all. William's mouth twitched. Impossible. Unless they spend money to buy land, they can't change the location. I made up my mind to give them the land at the edge of the city for free. If they don't want to build it, then build it. If not, then get lost. Go and tell them that every square meter of land in the center of the city costs at least 1,000 gold coins. Sia stretched out her fingers and calculated. Instantly, her eyes widened. She looked at her lord in disbelief. Then 100 square meters of land, doesn't that mean 100,000 gold coins? My lord, if the land is really so valuable, we can make a fortune. When the time comes, can you sponsor us with some magical materials to conduct research? Sia suddenly blinked her golden eyes, which were full of shining gold coins. William coughed lightly. You're thinking too much. No one will buy it. A black line appeared on Sia's forehead. She asked, then why is it so expensive? You will understand the reason in the future. Oh, in the future? Sia nodded thoughtfully. She decided to reply to those fellows. William watched as Sia, who was twisting her buttocks, left with her long legs. She might look silly, but her magical talent was one of the best. Her whole brain was dedicated to researching magic. There were not many mages in the current city of Dawn, including the 10 elfin mages who followed William. There were more than 50 who joined later. There were 23 middle-level mages, and the rest were beginner-level mages. In general, usually, idle mages would join a faction, the Magic Sanctuary or the Magic Guild. Otherwise, they would be like these mages, choosing to join the City of Dawn and be under William's command. William would provide funds for them to research magic. Otherwise, if the mages wanted to earn money, they could only rely on selling themselves. There are only 60 mages. The monthly research funds require more than 600 gold coins. Is this something that an ordinary person can afford? William wanted to complain, but the NPC mages only researched magic materials, meditated, and ate magical beast meat to level up. Battles did not have much effect on their leveling up, so powerful NPC mages were built from piles of gold coins. Time passed day by day. William was still working hard for the construction of the city. Until one day, ding dong, the 12-day internal testing of gods has begun. Chapter 64. Unknowingly, William had transmigrated for half a year. Now, even the closed beta players had logged into the game. He had long adapted to life in the other world. He no longer had the habit of squatting when he was a big player and not when he was a small player. After all, he was a player. Eating, drinking, defecating, and sleeping naturally had to be done in real life. But ever since he became an NPC, he had to abide by this daily routine. During the closed beta of Gods, I started paying attention to this game. William carefully looked at the information prompts. The sudden 12 days of closed beta had resulted in 1,000 level 10 players. They could not change the general trend of the game, but they still attracted the attention of many people. This kind of closed beta was a semi-deleted version. The accounts were level 10, and there were 10 gold coins in their pockets. They could directly change occupations and experience the lifestyle of professionals. It could be said that these 12 days were enough for the 1,000 players to gain a lot of game experience and benefits in advance. They had a great advantage. Moreover, the locations of the players were mostly near the cities. In short, it was very convenient for the closed beta players to walk around more. After the 12 days, other than the players' names and relationships with the players, everything else would be cleared. During the closed beta of the game, many players who had pre-purchased the game did not get an account to experience it. Only some professional players, live broadcasters, and many star players had the chance to experience the game. According to the enthusiastic requests of the players, many live broadcasters could do live broadcasts. William had watched the live broadcast before he entered the big pit of gods. Hence, William closed the door and tried to exit the game. There was no reaction. He frowned and continued to switch accounts. There was no reaction. Then, he clicked on the only forum that had lit up. Damn! William raised his eyebrows. He really opened the game forum, but he did not have the right to speak. In other words, he was a ghost on the forum, but he could see the posts and live broadcasts. Among them, there were a few live streams with a larger number of viewers that were clearly at the top of the forum. He did not hesitate to open the Angry Fatty's live broadcast. It was because Fatty was outside the City of Dawn. He adjusted the direction of the camera and aimed it at the city walls of the City of Dawn. He placed his body at the most inconspicuous position, and the rest of the scenery was displayed in the camera. Angry Fatty was a streamer. Even if he entered the game, he could not change his fat boy's body shape. After all, virtual games nowadays had already thrown away the process of shaping one's face. They could only beautify it by 20% or make it ugly by 20%. In any case, she was already pretty, and she could even become a goddess in the game. Players who weren't that great to begin with could also have an average face in the game. But this 300-pound body doesn't make me look any better. Angry Fatty was a little depressed, but he still tried his best to adjust the lens to the best. He knew very well that the reason he could become an anchor was not because of his looks, but because of his interesting commentary style. Therefore, he aimed the virtual camera at the beautiful scenery in town, leaving only a small spot in the camera for himself. Oh, what is this place? A town on top of a cliff. That's a good location. Fatty looked at the boundless grassland in the north and muttered to himself. His voice was transmitted to the live broadcast room. Fire the magic cannons. I don't care what city wall it is. I'll definitely hit the target. There's no need to guess the comments just now. If there were magic cannons in the early stages of the game, I would be standing upside down and having diarrhea. The geographical location is good, and the city wall looks very sturdy. Could it be made entirely out of steel? That would require a lot of manpower and resources. It's a good place. Angry Fatty smiled at the comments and did not say anything. He walked to the city gate and looked up at the tall city wall. He sighed. It felt very sturdy. But then he was stunned. Many players were also stunned. In the next moment, a group of veteran players who had been silent all this while also sent a drooling and sticking out tongue emoji. There was no other reason. It was because the guards at the city gate of the City of Dawn were all female soldiers. They wore shining silver armor, were tall, had long legs, and had good figures. Their necks were faintly discernible, and their fair legs were exposed under their armor. To the players, it was an indescribable fatal temptation. Gosh, where did the host go? D*MN, host, quickly enter the city. Is this a women's country? Is this the legendary women's country? His words expressed his eagerness. It must be a women's country that is extremely short of men. I'll definitely choose this place as my birthplace. Angry Fatty did not hesitate. When he saw the comments, he immediately changed the title. Fatty, host, has entered a women's country. In an instant, the host became very popular. William looked at the group of excited perverts and could not help but laugh. Indeed, men understand men well. Ahem. Angry Fatty pretended to enter the city gate. Two city guards unsheathed their long swords and stopped him. One of the female soldiers raised her eyebrows and extended her hand. Do you have a residence permit? Pass. Or are you a refugee? Fatty was wearing ordinary civilian clothing. He hesitated for a while, but he did not intend to lie. He said directly, I'm a refugee. Do you want to work or join the City of Dawn? Oh, I want to join the City of Dawn. Fatty pondered for a while. The name of the city was very pleasant. It seemed that he had joined a neutral camp. Do you want to be a professional or an ordinary civilian? Of course, I want to be a professional. Fatty looked at the mission information and chose one by one. All right, I'll bring you to the occupation change hall. The tall female soldier guard led him into the city. After entering the city gate, there were not many beautiful women to look at. The players who were watching the live broadcast were naturally disappointed. But compared to other hosts, the City of Dawn was more interesting. There was no other reason. It was because of its cleanliness. The City of Dawn was much better than other cities. It had to be known. The human society in Gods of Chaos was an aristocratic system. Regardless of whether it was a big city or a small town, it was dirty and messy. There was trash everywhere on the streets, but when the City of Dawn started to be rebuilt, it built exaggerated underground facilities. The streets were spacious, and the roads were made of sturdy limestone. There were trees on both sides, and flowers and grass could be seen everywhere. Toilets would appear every 200 meters. Even the toilets were made of wood. They were covered in moss and surrounded by flowers and vines. In short, the City of Dawn was more like a city surrounded by a green ocean. The level of greenery was extremely high. This kind of lifestyle was truly attractive to the players who lived in a high-tech society. But the most interesting thing was there were many races in the City of Dawn. They attracted the attention of many people. There were humans, dwarfs, elves, half-elves, and even some caravans made up of Serafkin. After half a year of rapid development, the City of Dawn was completely different from the small border town of the past. As for Angry Fatty, he slowly led the audience into this world. Chapter 65. To the players. William did not intend to initiate contact, because he had to have the B characteristic of a legendary boss. Moreover, the plundering battle that he had prepared for a long time was about to begin. He did not intend to give up this opportunity just because the game was in beta. He exited the forum and walked out of the room. He said to Nox, "Gather 2,000 soldiers. Let's go." "Yes, my lord." Nox bowed and ran to the military camp. Angry Fatty had just spent some gold coins in the occupation change hall to become a dual swordsman. He had also obtained a resident certificate, just as he was about to explore the city of Dawn. The crowd on the street suddenly dispersed to the sides. A group of soldiers wearing silver armor walked in an orderly manner. They had a fearless aura as they slowly walked past him. The most eye-catching person was the general riding a horse in the middle. Wherever he passed, the surrounding commoners would lower their heads and loudly call out their lord, son of glory, lord of the city, and other noble titles. Angry Fatty decisively used a player's innate skill, insight. William Blackleaf, legendary, camp, neutral race, half-elf occupation, guardian of Dawn identity, lord of the city of Dawn danger level, extremely dangerous other attribute information. Instantly, Fatty's eyes widened. He hurriedly shared the identity information he had seen with the live broadcast. Hence, the entire live broadcast exploded. You encountered a legendary boss with a hidden occupation. If you don't kill him, will you be able to live up to your 12-day experience card? Yes, yes, yes. The host is killing the legendary boss. If he dies, so be it. Can the NPC guard his corpse? At least let's see if you can break his defense. Increase his affinity with the boss. This is a hidden occupation. The comments on the screen are all idiots. According to the information released by the Gods officials, there aren't many legendary bosses, but they are all very strong. With the strength of the streamer, she can kill 999 of them in one hit. But I have to say, will killing this boss drop a set of legendary equipment? The discussion in the live broadcast was in full swing. William was not paying attention. Otherwise, he would have retorted, "No." After all, the lower the level, the higher the cost of creating high-quality equipment. To create epic or even legendary equipment, sure. But you still want to limit the equipment to beginner and intermediate professions? That's an extreme waste, and you'll have to apologize to countless players. High-grade materials could be used to craft high-grade equipment, so there was no need to lower their grade at all. That would waste a lot of attributes and special effects. As a result, it was rare to see epic or even legendary equipment in the basic, intermediate, and advanced tiers. For example, William only had an inner armor, which was an epic growth equipment. But look at the materials, the world tree. It was so rare that it made one's hair stand on end, however, no matter what. 2,000 people marched out in an orderly fashion. Their handsome armor and enviably beautiful elven warriors made Little Fatty's live stream explode with popularity. What does the audience want to see in 12 days? He just wanted to choose a very good spawn point for himself in these short 12 days. According to the information provided by the official website, the worst equipment of these 2,000 soldiers was of blue quality, which undoubtedly gave them a huge visual shock. Among them, the 500 elven guards were the most dazzling. This was because they were all wearing silver set armor, and their weapons were all gold grade. Silver set equipment. Gene Wu. What did this mean? This meant that no matter how much equipment was produced in the City of Dawn, the quality would definitely be very high. The other soldiers' equipment was at least of blue quality, and their weapons were all silver weapons. Little Fatty followed the large army as they advanced. Only when the army left the city gates did he reluctantly stop. At this moment, he looked at the number of viewers in the live stream. It had already increased to 90,000. Therefore, he decisively went to look for missions. At this moment, he still wanted to maintain the number of viewers in the live stream. He had to give them a sense of novelty. The beautiful scenery was not the most important to the players. It was just a special feature. The most important thing was whether there were different types of missions, sufficient experience, and abundant rewards. But just as Angry Fatty was about to leave, he suddenly saw something. F***CK. He left the epic tier orange saber outside. Just like that? Oh my, oh my, oh my. An epic level battle sword for middle level close combat professionals? What do you mean by close combat professionals? Can't we wizards use it? Casino. Angry Fatty was a little confused. What was the background of the City of Dawn? The most precious treasure of the casino was an epic weapon. There were also some blue and silver equipment for beginner professionals. But the casino was too awesome. Who opened it? The backer was very powerful. He glanced at his wallet. He was left with 6 gold coins. This was all his living expenses for the next 12 days, including equipment costs. After all, in the game gods, eating and drinking were necessities. Otherwise, it would cause hunger or a negative buff. A large group of spectators seemed to have noticed this detail and decisively started to comment. Let's gamble and turn a bicycle into a motorbike. Let's gamble and turn a car into a sports car. Let's bet all our money. If there is a beginner silver equipment set, it will be awesome. Let's not talk about other things. Just a silver one-handed sword will instantly make me a god. Angry Fatty saw this scene and made up his mind. He decisively walked into the casino. At that moment, he felt as if his battle energy was being deprived. The battle energy value on the attribute panel instantly dimmed, indicating that it could not be used. But there was a sign erected at the entrance. The casino prohibited the use of battle energy in magic. He heaved a sigh of relief. There were many people in the casino, and most of them were gambling. There were not many activities, but there were always people who wanted to gamble with small amounts of money. Among them, the most popular were the 2 fortune wheels in the casino. By spinning the wheel, there was a certain chance of winning the prize marked on the wheel. Among them, there were 10 gold coins, 2 gold coins, 50 silver coins, 10 silver coins, and even silver and blue weapons. But the most exciting was the second wheel. There was a super grand prize on it. It was an epic level battle sword for middle-level professionals. Sir, would you like to play the fortune wheel? An attendant walked towards Angry Fatty in a friendly manner. Slightly embarrassed and puzzled, Fatty asked, "How much for one spin?" "The small will cost 1 gold coin to spin once, and the large will cost 10 gold coins to spin once. You won't lose anything by buying it, and you won't be fooled by it either. Think about it. If you really get that saber by spinning the large wheel, believe me, the executive officer will definitely buy it from you at a high price, and you'll even get a good relationship. 10 gold coins? Forget it. I'll play 1 gold coin. But is it really that cheap?" Fatty was a little excited. Obviously, he did not know the value of 1 gold coin. Furthermore, according to his thinking, even if he could not get any equipment with 1 gold coin, if he could get 2 gold coins, wouldn't he be rich? That's right. Even if you can't get any equipment, if you can earn 10 gold coins, it will be a blessing from the goddess of luck. You will definitely not lose out. The messenger tempted him with a smile. It was as if he could read minds. Hence, Angry Fatty. He made a profit. That was right. After he had obtained silver coins 5 times in a row, until his eyes were red from gambling, he had actually obtained a beginner-level silver longsword in the last round. Chapter 66. What was the value of a beginner-level silver equipment? The price in the City of Dawn fluctuated around 100 gold coins. After Fatty asked about the value of mithril, he felt that he had made a killing. Many viewers in the live broadcast room spammed 666. In an instant, many people were drooling. They were waiting to make a killing in the City of Dawn's casino. But for the City of Dawn, mithril was a profitable business. It did not require 250 grams of mithril to create a beginner-level piece of silver equipment. Only 3 taels of mithril were needed. Whether it was sold for 1 gold coin or 100 gold coins, it was a profitable business. Furthermore, it was not that Angry Fatty was lucky. It was that the big and small Wheel of Fortune had cheated many NPCs recently. Very few people played it. When the attendant saw that there was a stranger participating, he decisively controlled him and made him steal a silver longsword. How should he put it? It was normal for every casino to operate in the dark, especially since it was for the Lord to earn money. The attendant naturally would not be polite. Angry Fatty had no money left. He had less than 10 silver coins in his pocket. But the small Wheel of Fortune attracted many professionals to show their skills. The attendant smiled and entertained the guests, continuing to cheat money. This time, William led 2,000 soldiers on an expedition. Their target was none other than the Tauren tribe that he had planned for a long time. Based on the principle of peaceful communication and working together, He had sent many diplomats in an attempt to use peaceful means to make the Terrans submit. Unfortunately, these fellows who never took off their masks were too stubborn. They would rather eat grass on the grassland than come over to mine. Oomph. A weak nation has no diplomacy. Today, we'll let those reckless Tauren experience our power. William shouted as he rode on his warhorse. 2,000 soldiers roared in unison. For half a year, William had been using the name of territorial threats to destroy many non-human tribes. At the same time, he had also befriended many tribes. For example, the Winged tribe, which had more than 50,000 people. William decisively chose to build a relationship with them and open a business route. This time, the expedition of the 3,000 Tauren tribe was declared war because the Tauren had invaded the territory of the City of Dawn. William definitely wouldn't say anything like, "I just want them to mine ores." He had to put on a show. It's not an expedition. We don't need too many militiamen to transport rations over thousands of miles. Everyone can carry 4 to 5 days' worth of rations, and we can advance quickly. If we don't have the space-time treasure, when the game is open for beta testing and the war between the two nations begins, the scale of the battle will be a little big. William rode on his warhorse and raised his eyebrows. Now that they had arrived at the bottom of the cliff, most of the troops were walking in the lush grassland. If it wasn't for the fact that there were people riding on horses, they wouldn't be able to tell the directions. The army of 2,000 people scared away many animals and magical beasts. When they passed by some small rivers, they could only see some traces of the inferior manfish, but not their shadows. It was obvious. This group of little fellows had long escaped without a trace. Even though they had the advantage in numbers, they did not want to face the murderous human soldiers at all. While William was marching, the 1,000 players with the 12-day trial card also entered towns, counties, and even major cities. Their landing locations were all random. The spawn point could only be selected after the open beta. The mainframe would also give the NPCs a dreamlike notification. As for now, all of them were stowaways. Many players gathered together and caused a lot of trouble. For example, some nobles did not like the players and wanted to capture them as slaves. Naturally, the players would not compromise. After a big battle, the players all turned into white light and disappeared. Then they resurrected in a nearby city. When the two sides met again, many nobles, of course, were shocked by the players. Hence, a big hunt for the players was about to begin. After all, regarding resurrection, the NPCs would definitely be filled with endless curiosity. Besides the nobles, there were many warlocks and mages who were also secretly capturing the players. As for when this situation would end, it would still require the open beta of the game. The players would enter this world in large numbers as the chosen ones. Only then would the NPCs calm down. However, there were still many NPCs who were full of fear towards the players. There were also a few dark warlocks who wanted to experiment on the players. Among them, there were players who treated this as a hidden mission. They forcefully endured the experiment and actually obtained many attributes and even endowments. There were also players who decisively committed suicide. They did not want to endure this kind of torture. In short, in this diverse world, anything could happen. Reality was often more strange than fiction. It's obvious that experience in this game is very important. Not only can it be used to level up the character, but it can also be used to level up the skills. During the open beta, if you want to level up the character, the level of the skills will inevitably fall behind. It's temporarily impossible to decide which is better to level up first. However, I estimate that every 5 levels up the character has to level up a wave of skills. Otherwise, the damage will definitely not be up to standard. As a technical anchor, Bite Me If You Are Unhappy had already discovered some problems through the skill table, even though he had not leveled up. Now, of course, he had to go through some useless, detailed explanations. Regardless of whether what he said was right or not, there would always be people who would suck up to him or maliciously attack him. In other words, it was all over for him to blindly compare. He happened to be in the Iron Nation's capital. The security here was not bad. As a foreign professional, after going through the inspection, he easily obtained the qualifications of a civilian and successfully changed his profession to a mage. However, it was obvious. Almost all the players were stuck on the path of finding missions. The gods' continent could be said to be another real world. There would not be so many village chiefs for you to run around and gain experience. There would also not be endless small monsters for you to kill. Oh, except for the small mermen. Players wanted to do missions? Sure. Wandering around the streets and triggering missions everywhere was the stupidest method. Only by going to the mercenary guild and obtaining the qualifications of a mercenary could they accept missions with rewards. Otherwise, they would have to join a faction and carry out missions with NPCs. William knew that the game was not in the open beta, so there were very few missions. Only in the open beta, when the two nations went to war, would there be a lot of missions. Fortunately, because the Iron Nation and the Black Lava Nation were about to go to war, they issued many missions to collect animal fur, ores, herbs, and other very frequent missions. Even the city walls were filled with notices to recruit blacksmiths. And this was also the mission that many players found. Normal people would not care about the mission to collect animal fur. But in the eyes of the players, wasn't this very normal? What else could the novice players do? They could not possibly draw a knife and send themselves to death, right? All games had such quests. But the thinking of bite me if you're unhappy was very exaggerated. He did not collect too much information. Just after receiving 3 missions, he discovered the nature of these missions. Then, he checked the rooms a few times and discovered that other anchors were also doing this type of mission. He even saw some garrison troops at the borders. They seemed to have the intention of expanding the scale of recruitment. Gradually, Bite Me If You're Unhappy confirmed one thing. The Iron Nation and the Black Lava Nation will definitely go to war. After all, the main mission cannot be too small. This kind of magical fantasy world version 1. Zero mission is basically a war. As for the City of Dawn, while he was muttering to himself, a large number of comments appeared on the screen. Don't explain. Anchor, can you go to the City of Dawn? If you can't go, I'll go and see Fatty. Don't worry about the war. Just go to the City of Dawn and stand on the streets. D*M*N. Look at the living conditions of the human nations and then look at the City of Dawn. The difference between the two is too big. For a traveling player like me, I'll definitely go to the City of Dawn. Even so, this only showed that some players thought highly of the City of Dawn, and some warlike guilds planned to enter the 2 human nations that might go to war. Other things aside, in the open beta, there would definitely be a main mission. Regardless of whether the main mission was to start a war, to the big guilds, it was better to enter a larger nation than to enter a city. The upper limit of their development would be higher. In particular, some of the big guilds were very ambitious. They hoped to obtain a large piece of land and build their own town or guild base. But next, Fatty discovered another piece of information that many players could not decide on. Chapter 67. The Mercenary Guild could be found all over the legendary continent. It was similar to the Sacred Palace and the Palace of Darkness. However, the professionals of the Sacred Palace and the Palace of Darkness were all believers. They were considered part of the Mercenary Guild. The Mercenary Guild was just a neutral force. It made use of its vast network of connections to spread across countless countries, neutral camps, and towns. It formed mercenary teams with local rangers and mercenaries. It was only responsible for issuing missions and earning a portion of income. It could also recruit warriors to become employees or core members of the Mercenary Guild. But no matter what, the Mercenary Guild had a cooperative relationship with any city, kingdom, or neutral camp. The mercenary teams were not subordinates of the Mercenary Guild. Even if they wanted to use the mercenary teams to do something, they had to rely on PY transactions or money transactions. The moment the Mercenary Guild entered the City of Dawn, William established the Dawn Mercenary Team in his own name. Many professions didn't like to be soldiers, and there were also many professions with mediocre bloodline potential who weren't chosen. If they didn't want to obediently farm and be taken advantage of, then they could only choose to become mercenaries. Originally, many people wanted to establish a mercenary guild and develop their own forces. In the end, the moment the Mercenary Guild opened for business, a group of people stared at each other. There was already a mercenary team. The name was called the Dawn Mercenary Team. When many rangers checked the information, they were shocked. It was established by the city lord himself. To sum it up, William wanted to capture all the forces in the City of Dawn in one fell swoop and take them all under his command. Whether it was the regular army or the irregular army, they had to be under his watch. Was there a need for the city lord to establish a mercenary team? Should he establish one? Or wouldn't establishing a mercenary group lower his own status? It did not matter, because in the City of Dawn, William was the only noble and the only leader. No one dared to rebel. Many commoners did not care about this method. Most of them did not have their own opinions. William had long been paying attention to those who had their own opinions. If they really wanted to cause trouble, they would definitely die. There were even many professionals who were ecstatic. It was already depressing that they did not become a regular army in the early days, but it was not impossible for them to become mercenaries under the city lord. After all, although regular soldiers were treated better, they were not as free as mercenaries and had less time to rest. What was the point of becoming a mercenary instead of a soldier? If they wanted to do missions, they could do them. If they did not want to do missions, they could rest and wander around. So it did not matter whose mercenary team they joined. As the city lord established a mercenary team personally, many rangers and warriors who wanted to establish their own forces gave up on the idea and joined the Dawn mercenary team. However, it was precisely because the city lord had personally established a mercenary team that many rangers and warriors who wanted to establish their own forces gave up on the idea. They could only pinch their noses and join the Dawn mercenary team. It could not be helped. William's influence in the City of Dawn was too great. His name was too famous, and no one dared to challenge him. To this day, there was only one mercenary group registered in the Mercenary Guild, the Dawn mercenary team. There were as many as 800 of them, most of whom were beginner professions, and only a few were intermediate professions. These mercenaries could accept the idle missions issued by the executive officer or missions with a lower degree of danger. If the regular soldiers did not have the time or were too lazy to do the missions, Lord would post them in the mercenary team. This way, the mercenaries could earn a sum of money. For example, the regular soldiers did not have enough time to train. How could they have the time to hunt? Of course, this kind of work had to be done by the mercenaries. Moreover, with the mercenary team established by the city lord, was there a need for others to establish mercenary teams to compete with him for business and missions? There was no chance at all, and so those warriors and rangers with some ambition were all clearly arranged. Angry Fatty also noticed this. At the same time, he met many players who wanted to try it out. More than 10 of them gathered together and could not help but discuss. This guy is obsessed with power, right? Anyone in the entire city with a bit of combat power is under his command. The person who spoke was a warrior called Changli Joga. He was a professional player in the Glory Club. The other players nodded in agreement. Even so, this reduces internal competition. But the information leaked by the official website seems to be the same. The Lord is in neutral camp. Usually, only one person holds the power. It is different from the country's aristocracy. What should we do? Join the Dawn mercenary team? Or establish our own mercenary team? As soon as he said this, everyone looked at him with concern. The player lowered his head and muttered to himself, as if he had not said what he had just said. Changli Jyoga sighed. There are only a dozen of us who are new. We are not familiar with the skills, the map, or the connections. We can't even gather 100 gold coins to establish a mercenary team. The purpose of these 12 days is to be one step ahead of the other players and understand more things. There is no need to establish our own mercenary team. Angry Fatty nodded. Changli is right. Everyone here can get the experience card. This proves that we are all elites among the players. We are experienced players, but we have to forget about our past experience. We are still new here. There is not much information published on the official website. We need to explore more. Why don't we join the Dawn mercenary team first? Let's not talk about other things. Let's see how the benefits are. After all, this mercenary team was established by the city lord. That's right. If there are other mercenary teams, I won't join either. After all, a mercenary team established by a legendary boss cannot be compared to other mercenary teams. There was nothing wrong with this statement. The group of people nodded. Just the reputation of a legendary NPC was enough for them to join the Dawn mercenary team. After all, the 1,000 players have been in the game for some time. But until now, other than someone discovering that William was a legendary boss, they had not seen any other powerful boss. The 13 of them did not hesitate and walked directly into the mercenary guild. The receptionist at the front desk of the mercenary guild was very lazy. He glanced at them and said, "Join the Dawn mercenary team?" "That's right. What are the requirements?" Changli Jioga was puzzled. "Hey, stop sleeping. Do you really think that the mercenary guild is your home?" The receptionist turned his head and kicked the chair. The leader of the Dawn mercenary team had woken up. As an employee of the mercenary guild, he had never seen such an unreasonable neutral force. The city lord had even established a mercenary group directly cutting off their way of obtaining greater benefits. After all, to the mercenary guild, the more mercenary teams there were, the more intense the competition between them. This would allow them to obtain more benefits. Now, the mercenary guild was just like working for the city of Dawn. It had no sense of existence. Peter wiped his saliva and looked at Angry Fatty and the rest in a daze. He suddenly understood and nodded. "Join the team. If you're all professionals, then there are no requirements. Follow me." Changli Jioga and the rest looked at each other. A bad feeling suddenly arose in their hearts. After all, this kind of sloppy receptionist often meant that the mercenary team was not good. Chapter 68. The Mercenary Guild could be found all over the legendary continent. It was similar to the Sacred Palace and the Palace of Darkness. However, the professionals of the Sacred Palace and the Palace of Darkness were all believers. They were considered part of the Mercenary Guild. The Mercenary Guild was just a neutral force. It made use of its vast network of connections to spread across countless countries, neutral camps, and towns. It formed mercenary teams with local rangers and mercenaries. It was only responsible for issuing missions and earning a portion of income. It could also recruit warriors to become employees or core members of the Mercenary Guild. But no matter what, the Mercenary Guild had a cooperative relationship with any city, kingdom, or neutral camp. The mercenary teams were not subordinates of the Mercenary Guild. Even if they wanted to use the mercenary teams to do something, they had to rely on PY transactions or money transactions the moment the Mercenary Guild entered the City of Dawn. William established the Dawn Mercenary Team in his own name. Many professions didn't like to be soldiers, and there were also many professions with mediocre bloodline potential who weren't chosen. If they didn't want to obediently farm and be taken advantage of, then they could only choose to become mercenaries. Originally, many people wanted to establish a mercenary guild and develop their own forces. But the moment the Mercenary Guild opened for business, a group of people stared at each other. There was already a mercenary team. The name was called the Dawn Mercenary Team. When many rangers checked the information, they were shocked. It was established by the city lord himself. To sum it up, William wanted to capture all the forces in the City of Dawn in one fell swoop and take them all under his command. Whether it was the regular army or the irregular army, they had to be under his watch. Was there a need for the city lord to establish a mercenary team? Should he establish one? Or wouldn't establishing a mercenary group lower his own status? It did not matter, because in the City of Dawn, William was the only noble and the only leader. No one dared to rebel. Many commoners did not care about this method. Most of them did not have their own opinions. William had long been paying attention to those who had their own opinions. If they really wanted to cause trouble, they would definitely die. There were even many professionals who were ecstatic. It was already depressing that they did not become a regular army in the early days, but it was not impossible for them to become mercenaries under the city lord. After all, although the treatment of regular soldiers was better, they were not as free as mercenaries, and they had less time to rest. What was the point of becoming a mercenary instead of soldier? Wasn't it just doing quests when he wanted to? If he didn't want to do quests, then he could just rest and wander around. So it didn't matter whose mercenary group he joined. As for William, he was just a figurehead. The deputy leader, Alec, was a shadow ranger with a hidden occupation. He was the real leader. However, It was precisely because the city lord had personally established a mercenary team that many rangers and warriors who wanted to establish their own power immediately gave up on this idea. They could only pinch their noses and join the Dawn mercenary team. There was no other way. William's influence in the city of Dawn was too great, and he was too famous. No one dared to challenge him. To this day, there was only one mercenary group registered in the Mercenary Guild, the Dawn mercenary team. There were as many as 800 of them, most of whom were beginner professions, and only a few were intermediate professions. These mercenaries could accept the casual missions issued by the executive or missions with a lower degree of danger. In short, if the regular soldiers did not have the time or were too lazy to do the missions, Lautner would issue the missions in the Mercenary Guild. This way, the mercenaries could earn a sum of money. For example, the regular soldiers did not even have the time to train. How could they have the time to hunt? Of course, this kind of work had to be done by the mercenaries. Moreover, with the mercenary team established by the city lord himself, why would others need to establish mercenary teams to compete with him for business and missions? There was no chance at all. And so, those warriors and rangers with some ambition were all clearly arranged. Angry Fatty also noticed this scene. At the same time, he also met many players who had used the experience card. More than 10 of them gathered together and could not help but discuss. This guy is obsessed with power. In the entire city, anyone with a bit of combat power is under his command. The person who spoke was a warrior called Changli Jioga. He was a professional player in the Glory Club. The other players nodded in agreement with his words. Even so, this reduces internal competition. But the information leaked by the official website seems to be the same. The Lord is a neutral camp, and usually only one person holds the power. This is different from the aristocratic model of a country. What should we do? Join the Dawn mercenary team, or establish our own mercenary team? As soon as he said this, everyone looked at him with concern. The player lowered his head and muttered to himself, as if he had not said what he had just said. Changli Jioga sighed. There are only a dozen of us who are new. We are not familiar with the skills, the map, or the connections. We can't even gather 100 gold coins to establish a mercenary team. The purpose of these 12 days is to be one step ahead of the other players and understand more things. There is no need to establish our own mercenary team. Angry Fatty nodded. Changli is right. Everyone here can obtain the experience card. This proves that we are all elites among the players. We belong to the senior class. But we have to forget about our past experience. We're still new here. There is not much information published on the official website. We need to explore more. Why don't we join the Dawn mercenary team first? Let's not talk about other things. Let's see how the benefits are. After all, this mercenary team was established by the city lord. That's right. If there are other mercenary teams, I won't join either. After all, a mercenary team established by a legendary boss cannot be compared to other mercenary teams. There was nothing wrong with this statement. The group of people nodded. Just the reputation of a legendary NPC was enough to make them join the Dawn mercenary team. After all, the 1,000 players had been in the game for some time. But until now, besides someone discovering that William was a legendary boss, they had not seen any other powerful boss. The 13 of them did not hesitate and walked directly into the Mercenary Guild. The receptionist at the front desk of the Mercenary Guild was very lazy. He glanced at them and said, "Join the Dawn mercenary team?" "That's right. What are the requirements?" Changli Jioga was puzzled. "Hey, stop sleeping. Do you really think that the Mercenary Guild is your home?" The receptionist turned his head and kicked the chair. The leader of the Dawn mercenary team had woken up. As an employee of the Mercenary Guild, he had never seen such an unreasonable neutral force. The city lord had established a mercenary team and directly prevented them from obtaining more benefits. After all, to the Mercenary Guild, the more mercenary teams there were, the more intense the competition between them. This would allow them to obtain more benefits. Now, the Mercenary Guild was just like working for the City of Dawn. It had no sense of existence. Peter wiped his saliva and looked at Angry Fatty and the rest in a daze. He suddenly understood and nodded. "Join the team. If you're all professionals, then there are no requirements. Follow me." Changli Jioga and the rest looked at each other. a bad feeling suddenly arose in their hearts. After all, this kind of sloppy receptionist often meant that the mercenary team was not good.